8 p.m. We're going to start the meeting of the Architectural Review Board of June 18, 2019. We have a full agenda, so I'm going to keep things moving along tonight and keep our comments as streamlined as possible. First up, we're seeing for the third and hopefully final time, ARB number 9, the Mather Homestead, 19 Stephen Mather Road. All right. Hi guys, come on in.
How are you?
Hello again.
Hi, good to see you guys. We are on TV tonight, so to
Okay.
start things off, we're going to have you introduce yourself,
Okay.
as always, and what your title is or relation to the project.
Okay.
And do it slowly because I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Please.
My name is Stephen Keeble, with a V. And Keeble is Keedle. And I'm an architect, doing work for the Stephen Mather Homestead. And I'm here with Paul Salotto, the builder.
Paul Salotto, C-E-L-O-T-T-O. C-E-L-O-T-T-O. Salotto Properties.
And Mr. Maslin is here with us also.
I'm just gonna watch.
Yes, he presented at the planning and zoning.
See how they
You
do.
guys can, yeah, you can pull chairs as needed, wherever you need to do that. Just kind of stand here, but. Okay, so give us maybe a summary of, where we are with this.
Yes. So we wanted to address a number of items that you had concerns about. Number one was fenestration doors and windows. Okay. And also the western wall that was a little bit blank. So, yes, so if we look at the both the north and the south elevations, we've removed the muntin bars that were in the windows and in the doors, and the transom above has the same pane sizes as the fixed windows above. And one of the concerns was, can we make those windows a little bit deeper in the wall? So we investigated a double hung picture window versus a casement picture window.
You're talking about the upper windows?
Yeah, the upper windows.
They're double hung then?
Well, it's a single sash,
Right.
but when it becomes a picture window, the picture window has a different relationship to the face of the wall. So
I understand, but the whole thing is sent in, but I mean, a double hung is a whole
no,
different.
no, it's called a double hung picture window.
All right, but there's fixed.
They're fixed.
It's not a window that opens up.
Correct.
Okay.
But the double hung picture window is deeper in the wall, whereas the casement is more towards the face of the wall.
Well,
So,
casements crank out.
yeah, so it's just about how the relationship is in to the face of the wall versus deeply recessed. So if you look at a double hung, the lower sash is usually recessed a little further in, whereas a casement, because it opens out, is a little more forward in the wall. So what we decided to go with was the double hung picture window, so it sits further back into the wall.
So, but what you're seeing there, are those fixed windows
They're
that are
fixed
just
windows.
recessed
Yes.
into the wall a
Yes.
little bit? Okay.
Yes.
I had a question about the size of the lights. You gave a good number of them, but I don't know how high and how wide they are. Is that
Yeah, so,
somewhere that I didn't
yes.
see?
So these are 3 feet by 3 feet.
Right.
The actual glass size.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the exterior lights. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I
Okay.
didn't make that clear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jumping ahead.
Wait, yeah,
Okay.
let's go right to
Could
that.
I just, what is the depth that you're,
So typically there would be maybe an inch away from the surface. These are now maybe 3 inches from the surface, just so it gives a deeper
Recessed,
shadow.
3
Correct.
Say recess sash would be a good.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sash, yes. And then the other concern was the transom window above those. One of the concerns was, can we investigate looking at restoration glass? And we looked into that quite a bit, but we had difficulty actually finding the company that could do it in these pane sizes. And so we ended up going with the same manufacturer, the pane sizes are the same double hung window. Again, it was more of a function, the ones we could find were very small, and it just seemed a little bit out of scale in proportion with the rest of the windows.
Are the muntins just a putty profile?
The putty profile, yes. Yeah. Okay, so then, the other concern was that western elevation. Okay. So the western elevation what we had rendered before was really just a blank wall, right? And what we've looked at was putting a louvered vent, and that is a sizable vent, it's 32 inches wide by 48 inch tall. And we also added the shadow line you can see there by projecting forward the siding an inch and a half for the size of a 2x4 essentially to cast that shadow line. And that shadow line appears both on the western wall
Oh, good.
as well as on the, I'm sorry, so
Is that a movable vent that you can open and close?
no, because the interior is really a, enclosed environment.
Right, no, I didn't know if you need it for circulation, so
No,
it's just
it's a
it's just a
decorative.
part of it, and there's no air coming through at all, or is it a
Correct.
real vent?
No, it's a,
It just looks like a vent.
correct.
How wide is the shadow line, the board?
Yeah, so the shadow line extends an inch and a half.
Okay.
And you said you're doing that projection using 2x4s on the flat, or are you
Correct.
building out with the rigid?
No, it would be with 2x4s, it's more as like a rain screen type thing.
Okay.
And then still all painted the same red without any trim
Correct,
on anything, including the windows.
correct.
How is the transition of the build out on the upper portion handled at the corners? It's a little hard to see from here.
Yeah, so at the corners, it's 12 feet from grade to that point.
Okay.
And as it goes around the corner, it will be the same, but you don't really see that much because it's kind of up in the eave.
Right.
Right.
So let me set that up just to go and see.
I wonder if there could be some kind of a decorative element or something that strengthens that shadow line.
Well, when we looked at, the typical barns, the extent of that, sometimes it's just the thickness of the siding. Other times it does come out a little further, but I haven't seen anything that's stronger than an inch and a half. Doesn't mean say
Yeah,
it's
and
not
typically
there.
there wasn't a molding, it was really just the length of
Just
the
the-
boards was the
Mhm.
limitation.
Yeah. And, go ahead.
Sorry, is there any constructability issue with the windows sitting directly on the,
No, so it gets pulled forward a little bit. I mean, the sill, again, we were trying to find the right position for that. The sill, and again, this line is a little heavier just for graphics, but the window sits above that, so it's in that opening. So the sill, we've got a historic sill, it's 2 1/4. We can extend it out a little bit just so that you don't get a strange kind of underside to it.
yeah, okay.
But we looked at a little higher up somewhere else, but it really seemed to make sense that it was 12 feet from grade. Okay, so lighting. The lights that we had previously shown were a little small, and a couple of the comments were, obviously with the door, we need to keep it on one side, but on the entry door, actually maybe show you here. It's above the door. That light is 27 inches tall, so it's pretty sizable.
That's good.
And it's made by a company called the Coppersmith. There's cut sheets
Oh,
here.
good to see the cut sheets, that's
Yeah.
good.
So the cut sheets in front.
And that's the light itself?
Yeah, except it's not. For some reason they have gas lights. It's not a gas light. You're not going to
No,
use
but
gas.
is this metal?
It's
Is it-
metal.
Right, okay.
And it's going to be in a graphite. So the graphite looks. It's not black, but it has kind of a slightly weathered bronze look.
And which one of these, is it just this particular style like this?
It's that style without the
Okay.
gas, and it's just with the top. There's a top scroll on that. So that
Well,
top.
that's the holder, and you're gonna have a scroll,
bracket.
a bracket,
Yes.
a bracket holder?
Yes, but that bracket's also mounted on the wall, the way that the scroll comes across, so it's not, doesn't wave in the wind. But
Right,
it's
well,
it's
no.
good size, and you can kind of see it, I think, on the side.
Without the tail.
That's,
Yeah, on this drawing, it's a little small on here, but that's the side elevation of it, so it projects forward a little bit. And the other one,
It's not really a copy of a barn lantern, though.
no, we looked at a lot of different ones.
You know, I mean, a
Um,
barn landing is a square sort of thing that you carry out to the barn.
Yeah, and again, that would really be, something about this
No.
size as opposed to that sizable.
It's not big enough, you mean? I mean, I don't know what they make, I was just thinking, that looks very formal,
And
and
it-
it looks beautiful, but it seems a little formal for a barn.
Well, again, given if it was a lantern, it would be more of a hand size, so that you,
Right,
so.
no, but I thought they had designs. Have you ever heard of a place called Northeast Lantern?
Yes, yeah.
They have a lot of lawn, you must have seen those too, I don't know what they have now, but,
Yeah, and
They have-
we looked at a whole series
Right,
of
okay.
ones, and that was the one that sort of
okay,
was,
that's
again.
good, I was just curious.
That style is on the property also, which ties in nicely
Okay.
throughout the,
Well, if it's on the
Homestead.
property, that kind of
Is it
makes a certain
central?
amount of sense that they might trade it on, but it isn't typically a barn land
right.
at all.
Right.
It's,
And then the smaller one, I think, was, it was 20 inches. So the taller is 27 and the other one is 20, but it's in the same.
well, that's very good size.
Where does that go? Where does the 20
The
inch?
21 goes on
Over
on the sides
side.
here,
Oh,
because they
okay.
have a sliding door.
Mhm. That's good, when we get less than that, it's,
Sorry, what were the size of the two lanterns? I got 21 for the larger?
27 for the larger.
27, okay.
Yeah, and then 20 for the one alongside the door. And
So
they,
they're just the two, three.
they're just three, yes.
27 and 23.
No, 27 and 20.
20.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I was ready for 20.
I'm having a difficult time.
It's
not
20.
27 and 20.
no, I'm sorry, I'm so funny here, I'm looking, since you don't have any trim on the edges coming down, do these two sidings just butt up like this?
Yeah, it's a
To
mitered-
corner, a mitered corner?
Correct, yes.
Do you see that a lot in barns? It just seems to me, I'm just trying to go back to trim, I guess, in my mind, but,
Yeah, in an older barn style, it would just be the siding that comes up to it. Other times you will see a corner board.
no, I mean, I've seen corner boards in the barns this age, a lot, but if you don't like it, then that's.
It's practical to have a corner.
It's very
board.
practical in terms of water.
Yeah. Water is the thing.
Yeah, again, we sort of just talked
No,
about
I've been
having
through
a.
this, but I
yeah.
guess the building committee didn't like the trim, is that behind that?
No, we
Not
were
any
trying to,
trim at all?
no, just trying to keep it very simple.
A little simpler.
I think personally, I'm not in favor of corner boards on a vertical siding
Okay.
condition, as they don't really accomplish anything. I mean, you've got boards that are already doing the function of a
Yes.
corner board, so you just wrap the corner.
If it was clapboard or shingles, then.
Exactly.
We can go.
Well, true, with the vertical siding, it's something different, no, it's just,
I think there
Oh,
was.
one question I have is the projection of the rakes. You've got a pretty decent depth on the eaves, 14 inches, I believe.
Yes.
And just from, and I'm just trying to remember, just driving by the Mather Homestead and observing the barn that's there, and also just in looking at images of barns when I was, reviewing the plans. The rakes tend to not be really that projected on more historic barns, of that
That
era.
was something we came up at an earlier meeting.
Yeah, originally we had no overhang
We
at
had
all.
none.
And it was requested.
Yeah,
I think
so,
in their
Yeah.
defense, we
Yeah.
asked them to deepen the eaves.
You did?
Yeah, we did.
Well, there's the eaves,
don't
but
wanna
then
say
the
that,
rakes,
but-
on the
Yeah.
gable
Right,
side,
they
wanted,
whether
yeah.
that's,
You guys wanted
if you do it more of a
bigger.
silhouette or versus a.
and after that first meeting, I drive a lot through Easton,
Mhm.
and so I was driving, trying not to crash, but looking as many barns as I could to
Right.
find examples of overhangs, and there was a mix. It was
Okay,
a mix.
all right, so it could go either way.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think that covered most of the concerns, I believe.
There are a couple of things on my list, I just wanna make sure we discuss, about confirming the color of the barn and reworking the north and south doors with no divided light. If you just wanna address
Yeah, so
those.
the north and south, there are no, we've removed the muntin bars, the divided light,
Okay.
and the color is the barn red, that we had submitted
the
last
same
time.
color we had around.
Benjamin Moore.
Benjamin
Yes.
Moore Barn Red.
Mhm. Are you having black buttons or white?
No, so it's red, the windows are.
All red, everything is red.
Yeah.
And there's one black, as I remember.
The hardware is gonna be black, the hardware
What
itself,
about the doors?
the doors are gonna be red as well.
We talked black and I
You know, we talked about black at the second, at the first and second, but then the board would prefer to see all red. So it's the hardware is black, the gutters and the downspouts are gonna be galvanized, which will weather. So there's a little bit of definition there, but it really is more of a cohesive color.
I think it was the committee that wanted it all red.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the building.
Right, you mentioned board, I think it was.
Yeah, I meant, sorry,
Question on the AZAC, choice for the, if you're doing red, is that too dark of a color for the AZAC? Because that has quite a bit of movement. I know you can use like a special, primer to help alleviate that. So I'd be a little concerned about going to the darker colors with the AZAC. You might wanna consider using a wood or like a burl or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a good point there, because it's tough to paint, and,
Yeah, we might switch to Burrell,
Okay.
depending, we've had some, we like both. We
Yeah.
have, Benjamin Moore does make a product that we've used where you can paint it dark. Actually, we've done much darker than the red,
Okay.
and it's fine. I'm
Okay,
not
yeah,
sure the
mitigate
science
some of that
behind it,
movement. Okay.
But there is, they have a special line
Yeah.
that they use.
That's just a pretty long run of AZAC
Yeah.
on the eve there, so. It's a technical
Yeah.
question, but it's,
But it's
I would
important, I
have
think,
some
to do a
concern
sample
about it.
just to make sure that it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
consistent.
Yeah.
how much color would change on the AZAC?
No, it's not, no, not
It
the
wouldn't
color,
change color.
with the heat, the AZAC will expand and contract, and if you, as you put a darker color, that will make it heat up more. But
Right.
Benjamin Moore makes something that reflects that heat.
Okay, so it'll end up looking the same as the.
Oh, it's the
Oh,
same
yeah,
color,
yeah, it's the same look.
This is
It's-
more an expansion and
But-
contraction issue, not a color.
Okay,
I have a question too. You talked about the horizontal line, and we talked about its location on the western, it made sense exactly where it was on the western elevation. And on the eastern elevation, you talked about maybe you're gonna adjust that and play with it to kind of,
No, I looked at different heights, and then it just,
it landed beautifully under the sill, but I thought you guys, that might have not been a possibility based on our last conversation.
no, I looked at the detail, and we can get that to work. It was just, we didn't know exactly until we looked at how that would sit.
So they both, they're on the same
height,
plane?
right. Which is really a preference, because it's
Of course.
consistent.
Yeah, okay. Wonderful.
And I think, it may have been traditionally that the boards were a certain length,
Mhm.
and that's really what determined where that height
Right.
was.
Right. Okay, guys,
okay, that's good.
looks great.
Well.
Thank you.
That'd be
You guys have a
great.
favorable report.
Thank you, thank you.
Go, Bill, yeah. That seemed like a bigger sigh than I was expecting, a sigh of relief. I didn't know. It was like, thank you. All right, it's been wonderful working with you guys.
No, thank you so
very
much. Thank you, guys. We
Looking
appreciate
forward
it.
to seeing the
We had
project.
planning and zoning, we
Yes.
kept the hearing open just to wait to hear from you folks.
Terrific, is the meeting
So,
tomorrow or is
David,
it
it's
next week?
Next week, right, it's next Tuesday.
I believe it's next week, yes.
I'll get you guys out a
So if
letter,
you
I'll
can
try to get it done
either
tomorrow
that
night.
or maybe Dave can convey it's,
I'll get a letter, but what we'll do is send you a emailed copy as well, as the,
Okay.
putting into the mail, so
well,
you
as
guys
soon
actually
as
have
they
something
get it,
over.
it goes in the record anyway,
Yep.
so, whatever, but,
Thank you, guys.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
The system worked.
Well, that's the way,
Yes.
that's the way it should work.
I think you'll like it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, moving right along, we've got ARB number 12, 2019, which is Stop and Shop. I actually might combine this with ARB number 13, which is also Stop and Shop. I'm not really sure why they did the double application, and I will,
I think they were too.
they're two separate, but they're the same.
Yeah, but yeah,
I
makes sense to. Oh,
Yeah. Hi guys, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good. Welcome, you guys, some new faces, so welcome to the ARB.
Thank you.
Here's how we work, we're on television tonight, so everything you say will be recorded. Do us a favor, introduce yourselves, tell us what your project is, the company, what you represent, how you relate to it, and what you're looking to do. I've got Scott Griffin Architects here, 25 Old Kings Highway for the first application.
Yep, that's
Okay.
fine.
Art? So please, we'd love you to stand and,
Is it Griffin or Griffith?
Griffin.
and Scott, maybe you could all tell us each of your names.
Sure, so I'm Lydia Padul, so I'm with Stop and Shop. I'm the Director of Real Estate for the Central Division, and Connecticut falls within my region.
Could you spell your last name, please?
F is in Frank, ADOOL.
Is all of this written out on Verstadt Boodle Properties?
I don't have all
No,
your names on
Erstad
there.
Biddle is our landlord, they
Okay.
own the Midwife Center.
Um,
So
So you're the director of real estate?
For Stop and Shop, yes.
I'm Christina Morrow, Moreau, and I'm from Magnolia Sign Company.
Miss Christina with a C or a K?
C, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N.
That is on it.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm on the application.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I'm Nicholas Nitschke with Scott Griffin Architects, and I'm the architect for the interior remodel that's happening at the Stop and Shop at this plaza.
Nicholas, last name as well for you, spell it please.
Sure, it's N as in Nancy, I-T-S-C-H-K-E. And,
One more time, please. I
yep,
didn't-
sure, it's N-I-T-S-C-H-K-E.
And your first name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Okay.
So as part of the remodel, we want to add a door on this end of the building to allow access for employees in and out of the building easily. And it's planning to be an automatic sliding door, the same style and look as the other automatic sliding doors that we have on the exits of the building. There's one here and one here, they look like this. We're gonna add one that looks just like it over here on the far side of the building.
Okay.
That's it.
Nicholas, back up a second, are you, so in the Stop Shop building, you are not changing anything, this building is located Goodwill Shopping Center.
That's right,
Your proposal simply here is to add a door
that's right.
at the, western, northern end of the,
Easton.
Eastern, or northern,
Eastern.
eastern, northeastern.
Yeah, that's all we wanna do, so it's not gonna really change the
No.
style of
So,
okay.
the plaza at all.
I guess my only question is, is there any study, would it be confusing to patrons of the store to see that door, if it's an employees only door?
Yeah, so I think the idea is it's far enough away from the main entrance
Mhm.
that we're hoping it's not confusing. There's not gonna be any signage,
Okay.
drawing people there. And it's gonna be controlled with a keypad.
Oh,
So
okay.
even if someone walks up to it, they won't be able to enter the building through.
Will it have anything like employees only, some sort of decal or anything?
Not that I know of. If there were tons of people walking up to it and
Yeah, we can
knocking on
decide
it,
that
we
later.
might, look at a sign that says the entrance is that way, but,
Okay,
it's just,
doing my due diligence here.
Another?
Nicholas, to that point, I wanna make note in my letter to you guys that there is no additional signage accompanying this door, and if there is, it'd be something you have to come back to us.
okay, it's fine.
I just don't understand the program change and function of that door, and it sort of ties into the other application. Is the idea that there's an online ordering and pickup service that employees use that door to come in and out and drop things in people's cars?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, so they can do that? Oh, that's
Is
interesting.
that a new service at Goodwill?
That's the next.
Oh, very nice.
That's the next,
Yeah.
The next
Application.
We get to the next one,
Okay.
okay, good, that's for the sign application,
Great.
okay.
Okay, great, well, according to, for the application number 12, you guys got a favorable report, who am I sending the letter to in this group?
That would come to me. I filled out that application for this portion of it.
Okay, 880 Main Street?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Great.
The next one?
Okay, so we'll start with the,
Okay,
we'll start with the, part of the, they call this, online pickup grocery service that they'd like to,
you guys, for the record, this is ARB number 13, 2019. Same location, 25 Old Kings Highway.
so the process is that these 3 directional signs in the parking lot lead the customers to this area where they would prefer that the customers park. they will put these, concrete base parking signs in this area right here. A customer will pull up in that parking space, they call the number, the attendant comes out of the building, puts the groceries in their car, and they pull out of the space. So that's why these 3 signs directing to this area are needed. So,
So how much parking do you have for people? Do you have a line that they could
These-
have 5 or 6 cars waiting at the same time?
no, right now, the process, I don't think will queue in that many cars. They
Okay.
do have 8 spots that they're asking for,
Okay.
and they had a in a lot of their other stores, they had a Peapod service that had 4 spaces, and they found that they needed a few more spaces because, it's a growing process, and it's, it's up and coming. This is the way people like to shop nowadays.
They drive in their own car. You still have Peapod that will deliver it to your house.
Yes,
But
that's
then you
still,
have a second one where you come
This-
with your own car and they deliver it to the back of the car.
correct. They order online, they have a specific time that they're allotted. They come in,
Okay.
and they call the attendant, and the attendant brings this groceries right into the car. It's a 5 to 10 minute process. We don't think it's that, that long of a process. It shouldn't create any congestion in any of the parking lot, or it should alleviate some of that congestion.
Less
Because
impulse buying
You're
though.
proposing a sign right at the beginning of of this, basically saying that when people drive into this shopping center that is full of multiple tenants, the first sign they're gonna see is a Stop and Shop pickup sign.
Mhm.
That's what I'm seeing on this
Right.
drawing,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
So when they pull in, if they are looking for this space, to pull into, that's, the directional sign will direct them right there, so they're not driving around the parking lot looking for these spaces to park in.
Don't they have
That's-
the whole list of all the people in the shopping center and one sign? Don't they have a?
No, they don't have a
There
directory
isn't
sign
a
there,
directory
no,
sign at all.
no.
Which is good, because a lot of traffic comes through there, and there's a beautiful flow to that area, as we all know.
It is, especially with the, what is it, not FedEx, but what's supposed to, whatever.
UPS.
Yes. That's a little bit of a problem there oftentimes.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why they have to go left? They can't just go straight and come through the front? I mean, if everyone decided to do something similar, what, are we gonna end up with, 8 different directional signs at the beginning of the parking entrance?
Yeah, how does the bank feel about it?
Well, this is a trial to see if this works. I mean, if things need to be adjusted in the future, I mean, that can be done. This can be used as a trial. This can be, this is a new service, so they're not really sure,
Sure.
in this location, how, things will work.
The intent is to, increase efficiency with the traffic flow, not have folks driving around and creating chaos, so to speak. It's to make it, seamless.
Right.
Right, I
Right.
think just thinking ahead, other people, wanting potential rights to do something similar,
Yeah, I mean, I know Stop and Shop takes up, like 50%, 25% of that space, but that being said, I think the clientele going through there, I think Shop and Stop is probably 15% of the daily traffic that goes through there. I mean, it's,
Right.
even though their real estate is large, the traffic going through there is dominated by the majority of other tenants in that.
Is the Norotan
Shop.
Heights Stop and Shop gonna stay there?
I don't know that.
I think it's still open.
I'm not sure.
We're willing to negotiate, if you keep the Norotan Shopping Center, then we'll talk other things.
I'm a little concerned about
The
this.
Norotan Heights Stop and Shop, is it part of
Oh,
the
that's up in the
development?
air.
They
This
are-
one is definitely staying here.
And the
Yeah,
other one
this-
is still question mark?
The Norotan Heights one is a question mark, but
Right, okay.
this one is definitely staying here.
I
They're
realize that.
they're
I
about
was
to put $1.5
curious.
million into the renovation.
They did, they put a lot of money into renovating this,
At a
and
minimum.
increasing. It's gonna be a beautiful store, and it's gonna be a nice process, for those people that don't have the time to go grocery shopping. It's
I'm
a
just a
nice.
little concerned about visual clutter.
Yeah.
Right there, when you come in.
These signs are so small, that parking lot is so big.
Essentially, no, but it says 84 inches tall. So when you
That's-
first come around the circle and you go, this is your main entrance to go in. So then you have the bank and there's signs to tell you to go to the bank. And then there's a clock, I believe, and it's landscape. So I'm just not wanting that nice entry to be accumulating unnecessary signs.
Well, the purpose of the height is so that you can see this when you pull in, so your eye goes to it, you know where to drive to, and here's the spot you go to. That's.
I think when you come in though, you know that the supermarkets, because you've got that big awning above, you know that you're going in that direction, you don't have to, and it's one way, so you're forced to go that way anyway. If you do turn left, you're still going over towards the store.
So which directional do you not want?
So maybe the first one is a no by the clock.
I'm concerned about that.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one here, you're saying is unnecessary?
The only, if I could add, I think the one positive for that initial sign is that it directs people along the back of the parking lot to go to the pickup spaces instead of the front of the parking lot in front of all the stores. So you're not having the crisscrossing of pedestrians in that front aisle, which I could collect online pickup. Well, they're going along the back.
Who's your client? Like, it's locals. So we all know we don't need a sign.
I mean, once you do it, I think you understand,
how
all right,
do
it's
you
better to
know?
go this way and that
You
way.
may not know exactly where to
How will you know where to
park,
park?
cause this is new.
Then what about painted spots on the
Painting
ground?
doesn't work in the winter because of snow.
Well, you're gonna have
And
these
rain
signage,
is-
you're gonna have one of
The
these in
pickup
each of
signs.
the
Yes,
parking
yes,
spots,
yes.
so.
Or a sign in front of the building, because if you're looking for grocery pickup, I would drive to the Stop and Shop, and then I would say, where are the pickup spots? And if there's some sort of signage in front of the Stop and Shop store,
That clutters the
That would-
front of the store. That's,
it clutters the front of the store the first time each person is doing it, but I would imagine that you're looking for repeat customers or, you know, after somebody does it once, I don't think they're.
each of the parking spots is gonna have this
There's a
on?
big
Yeah,
sign
one
that
of
says
these.
Each of the 8
Yeah.
online pickup spaces is gonna have one of these.
Yes,
So it's
that-
good, it's a
Right.
very, you know, there's a visual to direct, to
Says
get you to that
online
parking
pickup.
spot. So I think part of this, you know, to discuss as a group here is, you know, we're in some way setting a precedent to say, if you let Stop and Shop put their directional signage here, what if everybody else here wants to put their
About
directional?
UPS pickup.
Right, so I think that's why this matters more to us right now, I
The
get why you're saying
directionals
it.
are, okay, so you
They could
don't
end up with
think
a
any of
pole
them are
light.
useful?
Yeah.
Or
Well, I think right now we're hung up on this one, cause it's,
just the one?
I think just
Okay.
the ones,
Just the one, this
parking
one
area.
here.
Dave, is there a limit to the height of a sign such as this? 84 inches, is it within,
The directional sign?
is there, yes, is there a limit to how high they can be in terms of rules and regs?
Well, we certainly wouldn't want them to be like a pole sign or 16 feet high. I mean, typically, they would be no more than 4 feet high.
Right, so these 84 inches doesn't fall.
Those
into
are the
category.
parking
The
spaces,
84 is
the
at the
directional
parking
ones
stall
are 5
itself.
feet.
Yeah.
So they are 4 feet from the ground.
It's 5 feet to the top.
Personally, I don't think any directional signs are needed. I think we're starting a precedent, that, like, you know, consumers are smart, people know this is the local store, we know where we're going, and we do pick up all the time at different places in town, there's no one uses directional signs, like you drive your Stop and Shop, you look at the front of your store, and particularly, these aren't depicted on here, but if these standing signs are going in each parking space of 8 of them in a row, that is signage, you driving that parking lot,
That'll be visible from.
it will be visible, like if you, that's my personal opinion,
Do we even want eight signs?
Well, if you think of the handicap
big are
spots,
the
those are each a blue sign.
which-
Approximately, are they about the same dimensions? Just to compare it to what we see in.
They're a little bit bigger than the handicap signs.
You know what has them is Whole Foods. Whole Foods got, in that when you drive in Whole Foods, they've got, you know, efficiency parking, right? You see that, it's the same idea of a sign in there.
Those
not
are,
18
this
by
though,
24.
Yeah, they're
these are 2 by 3 feet. These
18
are
by
big.
24.
Yeah.
Too big.
These are 24 by 36.
Or 24 by 36.
The library had put some up that were for
the,
efficient, fuel efficient
Fuel
cars or
efficient.
something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And people got so annoyed at them.
Oh, people just park there,
They took them down
Hmm.
because people were really annoyed.
What would be your ideal
That
size?
they limited it
What would
to
be
that,
your
yeah.
ideal size that you would be?
Humphrey, what's the sign size?
For directional
I'm
signs.
sorry, I
Dave?
missed the question.
I'm Dave Humphrey.
About the 3 days over here, we got
Sorry.
You just say Dave, we'll know which one.
Yeah.
Maybe the question was.
What size
You
are
might know this
typically
you might know this offhand, but-
directional signs?
Typical directional sign is like 4 square feet at the most, usually. 3 by 1 or 2 by 2 or something like that.
Okay, so 2 by 2?
Yeah,
Then this is 2 by 3?
2 by 2 or
Okay.
something.
We can adjust the size if that will help.
I mean, yeah, proportionally, just to bring it down for the square footage.
So 2 by 2, Dave?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we can adjust the size.
So that's for the parking.
That's for the
Two
parking.
by-
And that
yeah,
goes for
2
the
by
height
2.
as
24
well?
by 24.
Is there a height limit to a sign like this, a directional sign?
Well, typically it'd be 4 feet high, but do you really wanna only have it 4 feet high
Parking space, yeah.
at the parking stall itself?
I think that's a different condition, that, yeah, the taller sign is actually more appropriate.
Right, 'cause as
I
you
mean,
see,
the concerns that you're expressing
see the
are part of the
number.
concerns that I expressed to Lydia, that the Planning and Zoning Commission's gonna get involved in this, because in a shared parking lot like this, they're not allowed to designate who gets what parking spaces. So as soon as you start to say, this is Stop and Shop's pickup area, that's gonna be for planning and zoning. And the signs, the directional signs are supposed to be generic, not commercial, not advertising. So, it's gonna need to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and even if these spaces are kind of like informally marked for the pickup, that really is gonna need to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review, and they may say, we don't want it at all. Or they may say, we'll give it a try for a year. But I can convey to the Planning and Zoning Commission your reservations about size and location, and the first thing you see when you come into the shopping center parking lot is Stop and Shop sign. Well, what if the cleaner says, well, I wanna have a pickup sign?
Yeah,
I
to
wanna-
that, Dave's point of a precedent.
And I know, for example, the bank went to the zoning board of appeals years and years and years ago to get their directional sign and their extra sign for their drive-through kind of thing, so. I think we could spend a lot of time doing this tonight, but it's not gonna get resolved
No,
tonight. It's
let's
gonna go to the
not
commission.
discuss it.
So,
We can come back
All right,
to
let me
the
give you the
aesthetics
spec,
of it.
I just recently looked up on the side, you have
Okay.
the sign of a handicap sign, it's 12 inches by 18 inches. I would request that you guys reportion the sign to match the
12 by
handicap.
12 by 18.
Yeah, and the other thing, one of the members has brought up, in a conversation earlier, is about the number on the sign, the phone number, and that's something you guys would like, and that's not something we allow.
That's something we really like,
You-
because you actually need it to run the program. Otherwise, the customer then has to get out of the vehicle, and that's such an inconvenience and defeats the purpose of sitting in your vehicle and having the groceries poured out so that you can quickly leave.
It's not an online, it's not an app, an online app?
Right, but then when you come, the point is to call and let them know you're here, so then the groceries come out.
Otherwise,
That's
they don't
not
already
part
know
of
the
it.
number?
They won't know that you're there.
They don't, the patron doesn't know the number ahead of time before the order, it's not sent confirmation, here's the number you call when you show up.
It would be on the app, no?
I get,
They may have it, but it's certainly not as convenient as coming in and you have to fumble with your phone, find the number. The number's right there, so that way you're in and out, because you just call and the groceries are brought out. What's the hesitation with the number? Is it just aesthetics or?
yeah, ours town, we try to keep it, yeah, it's just not something we allow, and no commercial,
So,
no
yeah,
commercial
the additional
advertising.
element, it's an additional element, I mean, if the number were a part of the,
Well, we can make it part of the sign,
would that be
that's not a problem.
better,
Yeah.
or just for the information? I'm just asking.
I really think that, these 8 spaces should be discreetly marked, because you've got, just think about when you go to the bank. Okay, like row 8 and, what is that bank? Fairfield Road?
Darien Rowayton Bank.
Bank.
Oh, it's behind 1020.
Yeah, and there's one, in Rowayton, and they had trouble because people were parking there to go shopping and not going to the bank. So now they have small, discrete signs in front of each parking space saying, this is for bank customers. I just fear this plethora of signs.
Trying to
Well,
designate
I mean,
specific spots all over.
They have those signs for, people with small children or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know in Norotan Heights Stop and Shop, they have those, and they're almost like a handicap sign. That's, I think, what they're modeled after, the handicap parking sign. It's just, it's a green background, white, you know, it is very discreet. Not commercial at all, no Stop and Shop
No,
on
we
or
can,
anything like
we
that.
can remove that and just leave the pickup, the online pickup. And then people will know that it's online pickup. I mean, hopefully they know.
It might help your cause a little, but again, you have to go to planning and zoning. Yeah, so
Yeah, does that make it more
for us
generic
to be
enough?
discussing it as a moot point, I think.
Can you put the phone, can you move this up to
Yes,
this
yes,
space?
I can
Is that
certainly do that.
acceptable? What? If you put the
Let
phone
us
number,
know.
rather than being on a separate side.
I don't think the phone number should be on there, I personally, I mean, this is ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
Well, I think first of all, P and Z has to say if,
Right.
or ZBA, who does
I
it,
think
P and
Planning and
Z?
zoning commission.
We have to let P and Z decide some of that.
On that first, whether they're gonna be there at all.
but we're
Yeah.
deciding on the content and
Right.
aesthetics with the idea to
Right.
go to P and Z, they'll approve whether any signage, any parking can be designated.
Yes, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, right? You know,
Right.
P and Z, I think, if they approve it, they'll say, well, let's see what the
Should they-
ARB has to say about how they do it, and
Should they
then
approve the concept first before we
part of
go
us
into
to,
all
you
the
know,
details?
how much do you wanna
Yeah.
revise this, you know, if you still have to
Because
see
if
them.
we're just gonna be talking about the details, normally when we discuss
across the
signs, we
board,
talk
you know.
about what the content
Unfortunately, I
is.
rework
Yeah.
other signs,
So
I understand,
just what's
I understand what your
on
guys'
the
goal
sign.
is.
It says, stop and
I
shop,
think you'll still find
online
success in doing
pickup,
it, not,
and then there's something
I think you'll find more
underneath.
success in
And
doing
then
it,
it
it's not
says,
push
let us
authority
know
is-
you're here,
Yeah,
give us
that's
a
just what
call
we-
at the
we've
number
seen what
below,
has been
and then
successful
there'll be
here,
another
and quite a
sign
few.
with a phone number. And that kind of goes contrary to, sorry, but everything that we've talked about in the sign regulations,
You're saying
everything.
about removing the-
All the text and the narrative.
We've spent a lot of time working with
So
different applicants,
I
and we
don't feel
strict
comfortable
policy, but always
saying
people
I think this
constantly
is
ask
a good
them,
idea.
number
It's
of
really
signs,
their advertising.
small and
This
large.
is their advertising.
Yeah.
And that's
I
what
think
we
we
have.
have to
relying-
consider
yeah,
this
you're
as
relying on
a
people
concept
to
though,
be-
because
to everybody to
Walmart's
know
doing
what
this.
the number is,
There's
and
a lot of different
not everybody's like
Right.
that. I know my
large
husband
stores
would never
are
know
Yeah.
the number
doing
offhand.
this more,
If I send him to the
Right.
grocery store
Do
to
it
pick up the
though
stuff,
without all that word.
he would say,
all those
Yeah.
words.
Well, it's their problem, marketing this
you know, if I
service.
say there's a sign there, you can't
responsibility
pull it
to
on
market it
online pickup.
Call
some
the
other
number
way
that's on
than
there,
with the sign in the
he
parking
would,
lot.
he would go. Otherwise, he would
quicker
not
they
go.
call the number, the quicker the groceries come out and, you know, they.
Yeah.
So
It's
we're just-
it's somewhat,
is there
but
a spot
it's
on
the
the
same
side
how
of
much
the door
work
that
for
we
some
should cut the
people
wood
to do,
out?
so
No, they don't
some
go
will
in and
bound
out.
for these
over-
drawings
No,
to
not
the
the
right
customer, the
spaces.
employee. Is there a place for the number over that doorway?
You know, it doesn't do them any good if they
No,
park
they're
here.
not putting anything on that doorway because they don't
Those
really
little
want
yeah,
the
because
customers
it's
coming
the
to them.
tires
Chick-fil-A.
And then you go there and they put the number on your hood and then.
Okay, guys, let me sum up here.
You know.
It sounds like it doesn't make a difference. Our decision's not, you guys still have a lot of process to go here. I mean, across the board, I'm just, unfortunately, you guys, it's not a favorable report this time. I mean, the directional signs, we wanna see eliminated, it sounds like as a board. And the parking signs just need to be reworked more tastefully. Beyond just the number, I mean, kind of the copy on there as well. If there's gonna be a sign, I think it's gotta be something that's smaller, 12 by
Simpler.
18,
Yeah.
max, and just simpler, stop and shop, pickup.
You don't, you're okay with the stop and shop? 'Cause-
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
green
Alright.
okay.
dot.
I understand that's your, I mean, yeah, I
Yeah, it
understand
can be-
what your
it can
Is
be
preference
green
released
the
to
new color, it's
to the
not
brand.
purple anymore, is that the new?
No, this is a color, this is
That's the new color.
brand color for the Stop and Shop
And it's
pickup.
the same
It's
green
not
that's in
the
the
same-
circles.
Yeah, it's not the same as the store. This is a different logo,
Image.
different brand, and different.
Oh, I see, it's a
This
whole
is not the
different-
store,
No,
what's
Here's-
this red and
I
green?
think this is
Yeah,
also
so we
not
need
part
to
of this
talk about the
application.
building signage
Yes.
also,
Yeah.
right?
The handle sign.
so this is not the store signage at all?
No, no,
Right,
this
so
is not
did
the
you
store
understand
signage.
what you-
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not, okay. This is another company.
So this is the store signage.
Right.
This is the new signage that
Right.
Stop and Shop is branded. This is their new corporate brand. And they're going slowly as they remodel their stores. They're switching their signage, their front signage to the new prototype here.
circles.
And it's the same square footage as, it's actually a little bit less than what was there before. I talked to David, and it's the same height, it's the same, well, it's a little bit less in height, cause before it was 36 inches. It is the same square footage, the footprint, as far as, you know, and it fits aesthetically as well in that little triangle as the old sign did, and the Shaw's sign before that, and so this is what they're asking for permission to have, to switch over from their old. And they're doing this big remodel in the store, as Lydia told you, and this comes with that part of it.
And how bright are the letters?
Same brightness as the Stop and Shop was before. They're LEDs, they're low maintenance, energy efficient, green, you know, as far as, not the color, as far as being green. you
So
know.
it's a white halo lit.
No, it's not a halo, yeah, it is halo, sorry,
halo.
it is halo.
Right.
It's opaque on the front and it's halo on the back.
The color is white.
In this
from what I'm
particular
reading
store,
here.
yes.
The letters.
But
Are
they're
are the two circles lit as
halo,
well?
yep, they're halo as well, backlit.
Is the signage currently lit or halo lit?
Yes,
Okay.
it's halo lit, it's lit from behind.
You know what the theory behind the new logo is? I mean,
Two
I
circles.
think it's actually an older logo that's been revived.
oh, Stop and Shop?
Yes.
I feel like I've seen it before.
Yeah, I think it actually is, but
Green light.
other than that, I have no.
Red, green light and go and
That's what I was
stop.
like, stop and go.
And stop and go.
Stop
It's like
and shop.
Well, I guess that's what
That
it
makes
is.
sense, stop and shop.
Stop and shop.
So stop is at the top and go is at the bottom.
This logo is actually revised a little bit from what some of the other stores look like because of the small area that it fits in. And usually if you'll see some of the other Connecticut stores that have been redone, they're the two circles and then it's a Stop and Shop straight across, but
And
this
sentence
doesn't
case
fit
too.
in this case.
Isn't it usually sentence case, like capital S and then lowercase t?
No,
Oh, it's not? Oh.
it's the same
Alright. I
Stop and
like,
Shop.
I like this one.
Yeah, it's the same Stop and Shop, but it doesn't have it on top, the logo.
Right,
It's
okay.
to the left of
Oh,
it.
right, right,
Yeah.
got it, that's what, okay.
This one's just adjusted a little bit to fit.
This looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so that looks great, no changes there. So, I don't know if you need me to summarize again, I apologize about the directional signs and what you guys were looking to do, but I think we understand your goal there. We just don't support it. So, I can write you a letter, I'll put our requests in there and what we're thinking. You can take it to P and Z and then see where they even are with the project. And if they support it, come back to it, you know, with the ARB mandate, then let's come back and let's draft up something that's, as someone said, the board more tasteful for our,
Sure.
shopping center.
Okay.
That sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Lydia,
Yes.
Norton Heights, Stop and Shop. We love our Stop and Shop there.
We do love that Stop and Shop.
We love it there.
I'm gonna love this one
do.
more when it's redone.
Yeah, that is a great one, it's, yeah, so, yeah, the Norton Height one's in there for my house.
Yeah.
I just love it. Yeah, that's why, that's
Oh, you
why.
want, see, convenience, it's all about convenience,
No, I
convenience,
know,
convenience.
I know, I think this is a great idea for you. I will be a customer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
So do we, David, need to get in touch with you and set up a planning and zoning people?
Yeah.
Used to, yeah, used to, yeah, and it's not going, it's not going for years, it's so, I don't know how you work. It's I know, you are, you are, I just don't, I know.
All friends are back at this point, so I'll pass on the materials.
Oh,
Old friends, new friends,
you guys, you meant quickly,
In terms of longevity of.
long-standing friends.
Long-standing friends.
And old friends. I love the. I love the very.
Oh, ah, cool. That's a good name. Hello. How are you?
all right. Guys, moving on here, we're at ARB number 4, 2019, it's Karen Forbes, the pop-up store at 1060 Boston Post Road. Mr. Genovese, welcome back to your resident, we are on TV tonight, so if you could introduce yourself and say what your position is and what you're doing.
David Genovese, resident and partner of Baywater Corbin Partners. We're the owners of the redevelopment project downtown. I'm here tonight, actually, we might not have written this application as carefully as we should have, to be candid. We are trying to, while we work through the last details of our redevelopment, we're trying to keep the stores full and occupied because empty stores are bad for the existing stores. And, you know, when the foot traffic falls off because there's vacancy, sales in the existing stores tend to fall apart. So we've been working pretty hard to try to keep these stores full. It looks better, it's more optimistic, and it's also good for business, for us and for the other stores. We have a pop-up right now, well, we have a few pop-ups. We have a 2-year agreement with Coco and Lala, which opened up. You met with them and approved their signage, which has been great. We also, you know, we relocated Morley. You guys are probably getting kind of tired of me and my signage applications. We relocated Morley to the old Fairbanks photo site. We did a pop-up with a group called Mermex Chic, which is a local resident who sells artisanal Mexican crafts and clothing. And I'm extremely proud of the fact that after 8 years of, in a positive way, stalking Karen Forbes, I convinced her to open up in Darien because my daughters all said that they would love to have Karen Forbes, all their friends. So she's had a store in New Canaan for a long time and in Rowayton, which she closed. We had done a couple of shorter-term pop-ups in the Frederick's hair salon. We did one with a group called 3 Islands. And then we did another one with a group called Lolo that did like little bags and purses and dop kits and things like that. I want to apologize. We were just getting going with the pop-up concept, and it was kind of amazing. When we did the first one, we knew that there was demand for this, but we really had no idea of how much demand there would be. And after we did the first one, it was posted on Instagram, we suddenly got bombarded with calls from people that wanted to open up pop-ups. And so we didn't really have our act together, candidly, and because these were only like 1-week pop-ups, we didn't think it was appropriate to burden you with an application, and the timing wouldn't really allow it. 3 Islands was fine, but the Lolo signage was just terrible. I mean, I think they like taped paper to the window, and it just looked really bad. So we don't want to do that anymore. And with Karen, she has a temporary sign up, but what we put before you is an idea where we would create this kind of permanent frame, permanent meaning for the next few months or year, because this building is will hopefully be part of phase 2 of our project. So the plan is to redevelop the 3 buildings along the Corbin Drive from the gas station back first. The gas station,
Across the
the
street.
mathnasium, the karate studio, and then the Tibbetts Law Office, to do that first, then move the people that are in the triangle over to phase 1, and then take the phase 2 properties down. That would include everything from Corbin Drive to exit 11. And so this building could be here for, a year and a half. And Karen signed a 4-month lease with us, and the idea is that she's just trying it, and hopefully she does well and she'll want to stay, and then she'll move to phase 1 and then move over to phase 2. We're creating a lot of complexity in our lives. Same thing with like Barrett Bookstore. But this idea is for a frame, which we show you here, and then what we wanted to ask is if we could do this, if we could put that kind of a frame up, if we could, you know, for now with Karen, do a sign like this which would comply with the regs. But then, you know, if in 4 months Karen didn't recommit, if we brought someone new in, like a shoe store or some other concept, if we could just, as long as we complied with the signage height, the letter height requirements, if we could just redo it, and we would keep it super simple and kind of generic. We're trying to give people a little bit of their own, you know, use their own logo or font and so on, but, or we could even do it by email if that, you know, once we've got the kind of concept agreed. If, I just don't wanna be too much of a burden for you.
Is this lettering day the same size as the Darien Toy Shop? It looks very small
It
to me.
looks small. I
I
agree.
mean, the whole thing with this great space, it doesn't seem to fit the space, it's so small.
Is this the first time I have ever been to the ARB and I'm being asked to do a bigger sign? Oh my God, I gotta catch my breath.
We're saying, please make it go, make it
We
bigger.
could, we would love to make it bigger.
It should
But
at
you
least
have the-
match, I mean, it's as big as one, because
You
that's
could
not
have
gonna
the
be there.
frame be bigger and still, you know, you could have the frame be big or.
I think the problem was that
It looks
the maximum height of
It's
a sign is
11
11,
inches,
so what
I
they did
know.
was they made her symbol kind of the 11.
Well,
The logo can be 15 inches, right? So her symbol could be 15 inches.
But
14,
11
okay,
inches
14.
in this space doesn't seem to fit, because it's such a high space.
Yeah, listen, I would love to do something more pronounced. It does look kind of skinny in the area, but I just didn't want to be overreaching.
Is this a lit box?
No,
Oh, it's not?
It's not.
Okay, I thought it was.
it's not.
There's no external lighting.
No lighting on it.
Okay.
That
So-
isn't the intent.
All of this is gonna be a temporary building anyway, but at
Correct.
the same time, I do think this looks out of scale to me. If we could get, we'd have to go to ZBA though to do that, right? We don't wanna do that. To make it a little
Is it
larger.
already at the upper limit, or is there?
No, I
Well,
think we
11
could,
inches is the limit, right?
We can set a standard.
10 inches is the max for the letters, but 2 of the letters or figures could go up to 15 inches high, with your permission.
so we could do a
Or
10-inch
from a
letter and a
square-
15-inch sign,
thought-
signal, or something like, scale that appropriately.
Right.
But it's the board, not
Yeah, the board.
But the
back-
lettering
the
is
backs
6
should
inches,
be
it just
larger.
seems terribly small. Here, Forbes, Karen Forbes, it's 6 inches high, it just,
So
Well,
I think it's
it's
also
also
next to
11.
the Darien Toy Box awning that, you know.
well, no, it's
Makes it
also,
look
it's,
that way.
it's just the space is so much wider, you know, I think it makes it.
Double size your frame,
Thank you.
increase the letters to 10 inches minimum,
Right.
increase the logo to 15
Right.
inches and you're done.
2x,
Yeah, I think increasing the frame is the way to get to it.
And
We can
11?
Fill up that space.
11,
Yeah. 15 inches, double the size of your
Double
frame.
this.
And then
Double
double
size it?
frame. Yeah, double size the frame. In the future,
Well-
if he wants to change out tenants every
Alright.
couple months,
See,
Okay.
it's a
Approved
long
by
he
name,
can send it
you
by
know?
email and they know the court.
Right,
The
so
letters are
it's
10 inches.
Macaulay landscape architecture
No, but
design.
once you
It would
double
be
the
like
frame,
4
you're-
inches
But it
to
is
get
the
two
selling point
lines
that
in,
counts, right?
For the
that's
next,
the problem.
yeah.
If
So when the
is
building
only
comes
come
down, everything
It can
comes
only be
down.
a
You have
third
to
of
come back again to ground
Right.
zero.
Right.
Then I'll be here
It'll
for
just
like,
be here.
we'll just be camped out for
Yeah.
6 months,
Move in.
Well,
hopefully.
it's too bad you
That'll
can't
be a
use a
high-class
frame.
problem.
You can't use a frame and move it to the next building or something, if you got a frame that you could be
Yeah.
moved to the next time you want it.
But it is, the signboard has to conform to the 1/3 of the total frontage, right?
We have a
They've
lot of
got-
frontage.
They've got a lot of frontage too.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
that frontage is significant,
Very
so,
big frontage.
So then you're way below that?
well, we should be.
In Post Road, you have 6
I think,
square?
I think the binding constraint is it's just the letter height, and then it's really just a matter of.
Well, I think getting the frame larger would help a lot. Is
You're
it
under
gonna, is the frame gonna be bordered black? What's,
I think it's, yeah, the frame itself is,
gray?
I think, gray, and then there's a border on her sign that's black.
Okay.
So you're double the size, with the height of your box, so it's a foot, do 24 inches.
And
So
then
give you a little
11 inch.
operating room,
Yep, and then 11-inch,
10-inch letters.
I thought it was 11.
Is it 10?
10 inches.
Well,
10 inches.
10 inches
Well,
for the
10
letters,
inches
15
and
for the
11
logo.
for the
That's okay.
logo.
10 and 15 for the logo.
15.
So the box is 24 high and how long?
6 feet
Okay.
in that case, but maybe we could,
How long is
Let me
this
check
building
it and
gonna
see.
be here, Dave?
I'm hoping not longer than about 18 months.
Maybe you should get a sign you could move to the next building.
Yeah.
Wouldn't hurt.
Letters
Would we say
I don't think I'm not that
Well, I
smart.
think the idea of the sign is good, I think it's just.
Yeah, we just want it to be crisp.
Yeah.
If anyone remembered seeing what Lolo did, it was literally like 8.5 by 11 notebook paper taped to the wall. I was like,
Right, okay.
and he was only there for a few days, so I didn't make a fuss about it, but it was driving me bananas every time I drove by. My OCD was kicking in. And I was waiting for the call from Dave Keating. It was pretty
Must have
bad.
been out that week.
Definitely.
Okay,
So
okay.
I can recirculate it.
Right,
Okay,
and,
good.
sure, via email, and then in the future, if Karen does leave, and you have to do this again, instead of troubling to come back here, submit,
Just email it.
yeah, through Dave with the prereq that the letters don't exceed 10 inches and the logo won't exceed 15
That'd be
inches, and it sits in the box.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the idea is that this, in the new project, we've kind of slotted 2 spaces where we could do kind of permanent pop-ups, because what we're finding is that it's so interesting.
World is
I don't know if
growing.
you're experiencing this, but like, every time we change it, people are talking about it. And so, like, when Barrett opened, or then when Three Islands opened, and so, you know, we're thinking about 2 spaces. One, we're calling like the incubator space, where people like Rosie, Everything is Rosie, could like come and try a business and test a concept, and then have like the traveling pop-up, where you have like a Three Islands or a Lolo, or something that's like, where, like people, like this week there's a store in Greenwich checkout called Tuckernuck that we're interested in bringing to Darien, and they're doing a 1 or 2 week pop-up in Greenwich. And she has a store in
It's a
Washington
very
DC.
interesting idea.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
good
it just,
idea.
it's like people want change and they want to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the extreme, in the city, people are doing pop-up restaurants. We're not that daring.
I don't know how you do that.
We're not that daring, but
Yes.
yet.
Yet. We don't have enough pop-up on our telephones,
I
so
was
we
just
have to
gonna say,
have them
I think
outside.
these 2 signs are different sizes, I think just make them look the same, right?
Oh, did they?
It's slightly different, yeah, it's like a half inch.
Based on the different-
Oh, 2 inches?
Slight difference in.
We'll make them the
footage,
same.
but-
We'll just follow the dimensions we talked about here,
Yeah.
the first one.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, great idea.
It's fun, yeah. And if you haven't seen Karen Forbes' store, pop in, you won't believe how different it looks.
What do you
It's
think,
incredible.
clothes?
Younger women's clothing, girls' clothing, tween, tweener clothing. And- Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, guys, moving on, ARB number 15, it's Orange Theory, 364 Boston Post Road, they're proposing a new front wall sign.
Right.
Kevin, we're on television tonight, so, please introduce yourself and your company and,
My name's Kevin Kane, I own Homewell Signs here in Darien, and we are here proposing a new sign for the Orange Theory on Post Road. It's gonna be exactly like we did for Roost, built the same way. If you're familiar with that sign over there we did, we got Roost and Danny's. It's gonna be push-through letters with LED internally lit.
Internally lit right through the letter? I mean, it's
Yeah,
not a
it
halo.
glows, no,
It's
it glows out of the edge of the letter, the
So
letters,
it's a halo.
right. It glows out the edges of it.
Is that,
364 Post Road.
it's Roosters 364.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Roost is, I think it's 358.
Oh, okay.
So
But
you
this one,
You prefer a white background in the sign band?
yeah, they decided to
It's
wait.
not quite fitting in the sign band though. There's a two brick courses, and I don't know.
it should fit between the courses.
It's not centered.
Yeah, it's a little tricky, we have 14 feet to work with, square foot, and that's, from the top of the brick to the top of the brick is about 24, so. Are you thinking about putting it inside the brick? Is that what you're
Well, it
thinking?
looks like it comes down below.
So it's on center, either with.
Oh, they're taking the 2 spaces, so,
Or, but it's not centered, it's not centered over the lighting
Windows.
in the storefronts.
okay.
It's
They're,
kind of-
they're taking these 2 storefronts, and they want to center it between them.
So the intention
Well,
is.
You want to keep it,
centered.
you want to keep it centered within the lights. Yeah.
Between over the 2 storefronts.
The goosenecks?
It doesn't look centered in this.
I would do the
Oh,
one right by
it's
the
open.
door.
I think it's
Yeah.
just the render.
We think it should-
One centered over the window against
It is a little
the
awkward.
awning. Is
You
this the
have to
front
step
door?
in the roof.
Their front door is gonna be the one on the right. They have two
This
entrances.
is their front
They
door?
they have two, they're taking two spaces. So they have two
Would it
doors.
be better just
So
to
where's
send
the
it
other
to
door?
the
Glass
awning and
door?
it occupies
Yeah.
the two spaces?
So there's two spaces, they're taking two of them.
Right.
So you can see there on the left here, there's a door on either end.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna use the one on the right for the entrance.
Well, would it make sense then to put the center of the sign
Yeah.
over that awning where the entrance itself is, because that's gonna direct people to that side a little bit more. And also, it just seems really weird to have the step in the parapet kind of right over that. Yeah, there's like a lot of juxtapositions
Moving
going
around,
on here that are a little uncomfortable.
Fit it
Can we
inside,
talk about
inside
like
it.
a black frame or something? It's just sitting on those bricks, I don't know.
In other words, you'd like to have it within the brick, inside,
Inside this.
inside here.
Fit within the brick
Fit
and just
within
make
the
it a little bit longer, just to get the square footage.
Well, I think it could fit inside.
Right,
We'd
they're
have to
sort
cut
of
it.
two linear decorative,
Excuse me?
Oh,
two
gotcha,
linear
gotcha.
decorative
Yeah.
brick things, having it fit inside there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it looks like it's just thrown on.
The
there.
tricky thing with that is
It's only about
because
18 inches.
each, it's not shown here on the picture, but with each course of bricks there it's a rectangle. So behind the sign, there's a
Oh.
vertical,
Oh.
you can see it on the left side, it's the same way it's gonna be, so you got 1, 2.
Mhm.
I should have showed you that in the picture.
What
Wait,
the,
say
the
that
brick
again.
So-
course doesn't go beyond?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's stopped,
so-
it makes a rectangle.
Oh.
There's a rectangle over
Gotcha.
each
Okay.
unit, so
Which, to me,
between,
makes it even more.
Then why
Well,
wouldn't you
why
move it
would-
over
Yeah,
to
they're
the
moving
right-hand
over.
side?
Right, into the big
And over
square.
the main door,
No, just
Centered.
here,
Centered.
centered
centered
here.
between the two windows.
On the
And then it'd be
brick.
centered under this.
Over the
Right.
right.
Canopy,
Like a
it's
brick
brick.
picture frame.
because they're
And you
using
got
both
that top
spaces, they
right
wanted
there.
to
I
like
think it
Right.
just really
Be
begs
here.
it to be.
There.
centering it, that's why they want to put it on the right
I
side.
think it should be over the front door. Right.
Yeah, and also if the entrance is on the right
Yeah.
side, it'll,
Yeah.
I think it just,
Yeah, it should be in that picture frame, over that storefront.
Over the right. It's the main
Centered
But there's only
on
one
that.
entrance to get into the
Right,
space, so
it's
it
only
doesn't
one
matter.
entrance.
So once you're inside, you'll know that
Right.
it's the whole space.
and are there gonna be any like window decals? I mean, if they did like a repetitive decal on the larger windows for
We
Orange
talked, I talked to
Theory,
David about that.
that would tie the whole thing together.
We may balance it because obviously if we leave it here, it's just gonna be totally off balance. We may put something in the window
Mhm.
that balances it off a little bit. That was our other option.
I think I would be more in favor for that with the sign. I think it would just be more appropriate.
So you think it centered over this sec, not necessarily all the way to the right, it's just
No, no,
centered in this
centered,
area.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And then
There's
put
such strong symmetry when they redid this.
Yeah.
They did a really nice job, but the symmetry is really crisp.
Yeah.
And that sign kind of
It's a little
throws
tricky
everything
because
off.
they are taking two spaces. It was,
But that's
Yeah.
gonna
It's
be
okay.
obvious with windows like they have, you can see that it's all
Yeah.
And nobody else is going there unless they're going to Orange Theory, correct?
in those two sections, there's
Yeah.
two other units next to it on the other
Oh,
side, but yeah.
It looks like the whole thing is gonna be.
They,
The way it is,
Yeah,
yeah, the way it looks
they
now.
put temporary, yeah, they put, yeah, coming soon, yeah.
Yeah.
I put those up, we
I
took a
don't
couple
know
down
that
because
region.
Yeah.
they used every window in there. So you like the idea of keeping it on the right, centering it, and then maybe we could balance it off with something in the window, perhaps, on the outside.
So there's four bays to the whole structure.
To the whole building, right.
Right, so potentially there could be a sign over two of the individual ones on the left, and then we have a blank one, and then Orange Theory on the right.
Right.
Potentially. But I think that would be better than having Orange Theory between the two
Right,
spaces, the way it's shown.
inside the brick.
And you want the size of the sign to fit in the brick,
Within the
Within the brick,
decorative box.
so instead of going on top and below the brick, it fits into what was designed
Yeah.
for the signage. So instead of being 24 inches tall, it would be
probably 22.
21,
18
22,
or
whatever it is.
20, or, yeah.
I think that would look good, better.
Which probably would work because the splat can only be 15 inches anyway, so we still have a little wiggle room. so that might work.
What did you call it, the splat?
They call it a splat, yeah.
Okay.
That big, I don't know, that's what their official word is.
You could also put a small decal on each of the four main window bays to kind of tie it together
Yeah.
too.
I think you're right, I think we can balance that off with something over here on the left
Yeah.
side.
Is it 50?
It's a tricky, because they're taking two, it's kind
Yeah.
of, where do you put it, right? But
It looks so nice.
the building's beautiful.
Yeah.
John does a great job.
And the landscaping looks great.
Yeah, right?
Really, and then the building behind it, the complex.
You can see it.
Yeah, that ran up to.
Terrific,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Good, I'll pass it on to the builders.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Fletcher Development is doing the two buildings at 320 and 330, the big office buildings behind it. And John Vaccaro did this building. So I'll mention to him.
yeah, I know.
Those are really nice, the ones behind you, I've been in this.
Yeah, they did, great job.
Okay, Kevin, sounds like a favorable report,
Okay.
except for those changes, so,
We'll just see, I'll just redesign it.
yeah.
Okay,
I'll put those changes in there though, but the relocation and shrinking the height of it.
okay,
And then suggestive of adding some window decals to balance.
okay, all right, great.
So,
All right, thanks, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And
Bye.
see you.
Good night. Bye.
Okay, Bob?
Great, guys. Moving on to our last
Yep, you're up.
main agenda item. This is ARB number 33 from 2016. It's the Norton Heights Shopping Center. If I'll refresh your memories, we saw them in November 2016 and had a series of changes. They went back to the drawing board, went and incorporated those changes and re-presented to us the following month on December 2016. At which point we've given them a favorable report of what was presented.
No, Bob said no.
All right.
No, we don't wanna use it. We could, that's not totally.
Whatever's good for you guys. So gentlemen, we are on television tonight, so I know, some of us know your faces and names, but for the record, just introduce each of yourselves down the line, what your position is.
I'm Jim Palmer from the Lake Shopping Center. Hi, Phillips, I'm the architect and office in Fairfield.
Go on, you guys. I'm sorry, say that again, Paula.
That's Phil. Phil Saron's name is Saron, C as in Charlie, E-R-R-O-N.
And what's your company, Phil?
Phillips Saron Architect.
And that's in Fairfield?
Yes, ma'am.
Bob Naslin, you know me. Those are copies for you.
Okay.
More accurate.
So give us a little background. I just kind of reminded the board that we saw you in November 2016. You had a great presentation. We had some minor revisions and stuff that you went and reworked, represented in December 2016. And I believe at that time we sent you guys a favorable report, and you then went on to P&Z, and we actually really haven't heard of what's become of the project since then, so.
Right.
These are more accurate colors than what was sent to us in general.
Yeah.
Because the computer colors don't ever
Yeah,
come
so
out.
I don't
Computer.
think, we didn't actually send the renderings, I don't think, in the
No,
package
but
anyway.
these are very thick.
No, what you have are the elevations, basically.
Oh.
Right, and it shows the colors.
It's got
These
some
colors-
technical information.
These
but-
colors aren't that accurate, what you're saying.
That's correct.
And we've been going around and around with the colors up until today,
I'm sure.
and trying to get the best, trying to predict what you would like.
And also what works best for the development and
Right.
makes it look interesting.
Of
and
course, you
appealing.
have to have a variety of them.
My June 7th letter outlines what the changes are, and I thought it would be best just to go over the facade changes so you can see what the differences are, we can talk about that.
Could you guys give, about part of that, could you give some background, say like, where have you guys, what's been kind of happening that led you guys up to this point since we last saw you in December 2016?
Most of it is the result of value engineering.
Okay.
Right? Did you
Yes,
say?
yes, we had to take
In
a.
fact, it's probably entirely value engineering.
Yeah.
Coupled with some potential issues on marketability and things like that. So the biggest change is, you have the site plan.
We do.
So, the biggest change is in this building here at the corner of Hollow Tree Ridge and Heights Road. The original plan had an underground parking garage where you'd enter over here, go down the Costco ramp, I'll call it, down into the garage underneath, and it went the entire length.
It went all the way actually to here.
Out, yeah, out under here, out to here. So the change is to eliminate all of the underground parking here
and to have surface parking in the garage for part of this corner building out to right about here. This would remain a retail space. And you'd still have the second floor.
So you eliminated all the underground parking?
Only in the one building.
Just
We're not-
under,
we're not talking
no,
about
no,
the
no.
second building.
Just on the
This
one
one,
on corner
yeah.
Heights and
Okay.
Hollow Tree.
For the one,
So this is the grade level plan there, you can see where the parking is here, and then that retail stays.
retail and restaurant.
And so does it stay in this building too.
Parking with second story retail or just parking?
No, so it's
There's
parking.
no retail above the
No,
parking?
no, all the retail's on the first floor.
Nothing changes
Got it.
in floor plan above the first floor level.
Okay.
Right, this is what, site plan?
Yep.
Okay. So that drives changes to the facade over, do you have a big?
Is the massing of that building is essentially the same though, isn't it?
Same
Off-
body.
Off the corner of Hollow Tree and Heights.
Same box.
Same, yeah.
Right, so the box
Facade
doesn't
change.
change at all. The footprint doesn't change, the box doesn't change. Where the retail and the office spaces doesn't change at all. And then in the other space, and really looking at the renderings is almost probably the best thing. This is looking at it, you don't, that's fine.
You need them?
No, I don't need this, I need that. This is looking at it from Hollow Tree. So everything you see here is exactly the way it was. These, what we have here now, these used to be windows that went into the retail. These had some windows and display boxes that were where the parking area was. This was always parking behind here. It's where the ramp went down. As you come around, the corner, this again is the corner, so all of the massing here stays exactly as it was. This brick corner stays as it is, and again, where these openings are, is what was the windows that went into those stores. This is a door that actually now goes into the parking area that previously went into one of the retail spaces, and there used to be a handicap ramp out here. We were able to get rid of some of the stairs and ramps that were on the corner over here because of the fact that when we got rid of the garage underneath there, we can make the floor level go straight through. So the floor level is at the same as grade now. So you got a little bit more facade.
Does that help you?
Sure. So you got a little bit more facade. As we come down the rest of the
It's all
building.
parking. No, the entry door there. This is parking.
As you come,
That's the same.
no, that is the same one,
No.
I'm sorry.
For pedestrians.
So here's kind of a view as you come down and you're looking back towards Hollow Tree. So again, all of this is exactly as it was. Over here is where the parking garage is now inside the building in that area. When I say, so the massing is exactly as it was. The other change, we've made a couple of changes to the facade. One of them is what Bob just mentioned. The other one is that we've eliminated a fair amount of the brick. We kept the brick that's on that corner of Hollow Tree because we thought that was a really super important element. But some of these other elements that were brick, again, for value engineering purposes, we've changed that to siding.
Hardy siding?
It'll be hard to
So that's
say.
the south elevation, that's this?
Right, that's correct. And then this is an elevation of by the clock tower, which you really don't see from the street, but is inside the complex. And again, these two elements here were brick previously, and we've changed those to siding also.
They're beautiful.
What color hardy siding have you chosen? I mean, you take the color that they produce, or you're gonna paint over it?
Well, I mean, they make 20 different colors,
No,
so
I was just wondering what you've chosen.
we didn't pick out the exact specific color. This is the color range that we're looking at.
Are you gonna come back with the specific colors?
We don't have.
Is this a specific color that you can go with?
Yes, I mean, this matches one of the hardy colors as close as we could get the replication to.
All right, I was just curious, because color is important.
Right,
And-
so this
and
is the I
roofing
mean,
is
we're happy to say this is the color. We'll color match it.
With the hardy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you have a like, ivory beige and whatever. What color, what are you putting on the roofs?
So these roofs are asphalt shingles, whatever,
Architectural style.
yeah, whatever those colors were, we didn't change, we're not planning
I
on
was
changing
just
any of the
curious, I
colors
don't remember.
that were previously approved. except for where the
Remember what
brick
we
changes.
approved? I don't
Here's what we'll do, don't worry, what we'll do at some point in the end, before you guys do a final presentation, after this presentation, we'd like you guys to put together a board of the final materials, final colors, when it's come to that, and you
Okay.
have that final selection,
Fine.
to show that to us one last time, so we can make sure that schematic
Good.
is kind of what we saw here and matches.
Okay, that's fine.
Believe me, we're on the
Yeah,
details, so
right,
we're.
yeah.
The other,
Yeah.
so the other change that we made on the exterior of the building is, there was chimneys on the building, which were faux chimneys, they didn't serve any purpose, and we got rid of all the chimneys that were on the building.
Well, I think we were talking, the faux chimneys did give an opportunity to put like plumbing vents, and there was a way to reduce the clutter of the roofs by using those faux chimneys. Again, this goes back like 2 years, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
For the
I
most
would,
part.
I would think
yeah.
there's a certain function that.
There
can
was
be
only,
achieved.
I think there was only 4 of them, and so you
Mhm.
might have been able to hide a couple of the vents, but, the way the buildings are, the vents are all pretty much central in the middle, they don't come up very high, and you have the mansards along the edges of the building.
So those will be pretty well.
So you really,
masked.
I don't think you're gonna see them, and you probably remember that there's certain areas where we have screening where to hide mechanical equipment also, so you're not gonna see the vents.
What kind of windows are you thinking about?
The windows right now, we're looking at Marvin, again, we've made no changes to what was approved on the windows.
Double hung Marvin.
They're a combination, they're mostly casements, they're a combination actually of double hungs and casements.
The only
The-
change is the aluminum.
Yeah, so the change on the storefront glass is that what was previously approved was a painted aluminum storefront. We value engineered that to go to a bronze aluminum storefront. But on the windows in the units, we didn't touch
Are
that,
these
whatever was
simulated
approved.
divided lights or true divided lights?
They're simulated divided lights.
The bronze storefronts would be all the same,
Yes,
so all the storefronts would be bronze.
the bronze.
Bronze siding, bronze metal.
Yes, bronze metal. And again, when we come back with that color board, then we'll give you the exact samples of all of those colors.
What's your sense about, what's your sense about the party planks, how well it's aging? I've started to hear some drumbeat about party.
I don't know, I mean, the longest I have it on any of my projects is probably about 10 years, and I've driven by the project recently and it looks
So far,
fine.
so good.
Yeah, I mean, the issue sometimes you have with it is if it gets too close to the ground, sometimes it'll absorb a little bit, so we usually try to do a trim board on the bottom, but,
One
I
additional.
mean, the other siding that we could explore is Boral, B-O-R-A-L. I mean, that's another one of them, we've used both of them, I mean, they're gonna give you the same appearance.
Do they take paint, okay, if you
Sure.
have to?
Do you remember the project that we approved, near the train station where they had parking on they have parking
Yes,
on the first
exactly. I was
ground
thinking that
floor?
myself.
And we encouraged them to have some kind of screening so that at night you're not just looking in at the parked cars, yes, thank you. Is that something that we wanna talk about? Because that was a concern, remember, because if you have to have 24-hour lighting. So then suddenly you're looking at a lit parked car garage. So we had asked
We actually
for-
thought about that.
Oh, okay, good.
I mean, Phil will talk about the fact that he designed the height of the wall to block lights from cars.
Yeah,
and
sure.
We also took into account through landscaping.
Right.
Okay.
Good, Bob.
Show it.
This is Hollow Tree Ridge, and there's some evergreens here, trees.
But and your other.
I think
have a
also the,
wall or
that
something, or
building was
something
like
other than
right,
evergreen
wasn't that
trees.
the one that was like
But
really
they're not
packed
gonna be
at the
there
sidewalk?
necessarily.
trees are
This does have the advantage of having some
Trees,
setback,
trees.
but,
Yeah.
I think I see your
They have
point.
residents above.
What's the other one look like?
We, they
Is
had
it-
put
is that a-
lattice, they put lattice,
Their picture.
Well, I think it's
So-
different now, I think, than what
Does it
was
look
showing
like that?
there.
We drew the lattice in one of the
oh,
open.
you did,
Yeah.
yes, because
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
if you're living above.
You can't probably see
you
this
may
from
not
far.
Well,
really-
that's good.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
So
we
it's
don't
on-
mind
it's
what-
Different
lattice,
business
and that's cheap too, you know.
Yeah,
you
Is
get
it
the
lattice or is it?
That's lattice, right?
We drew lattice
And
just
what
to-
they did first was they just made it look like windows.
We,
without
look-
glass.
we,
That's
we,
right.
we
And
drew
then that
lattice
was
just
a-
in one, so you can
That
see
was a
it.
bump, with,
Oh,
so they
Yeah.
quickly changed it.
The lattice
Oh, oh.
makes all the
I
difference,
know
is
what
that gonna,
Right.
Be right west.
Look, we would, candidly, we would prefer the openings,
smaller windows.
but we do want the project to be approved. We would prefer the openings, so it gives us more air circulation and everything else in the garages.
Mhm.
We did do 4-foot high walls around, in the garage, so that you won't see headlights or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But if you're living above, you might not appreciate having a lot of light coming up.
But the light's not gonna come up out of the garage to the people above us,
Yeah?
no.
It's a lot of
Well, if
ambient
you
light.
have
I mean, the
open
garage is lit
openings
at night.
spilling light onto the surrounding sidewalks and drives, and then you have someone living 10 feet above that.
It's something.
I would be.
Well, the garage is always lit in the winter at night.
It's-
At
it's
night
got-
as well, yeah.
The garage is lit on a low level lighting. The stores and the restaurant would have given off much more light, granted that there's no light in them 24 hours a day. The light goes off at 11 o'clock at night. We do have a lot of landscaping around the project too, which is gonna absorb that light that comes out of the openings from the garage area. And we can shield the lights in the garage too, so that the light stays 100% inside the garage.
Well, you can shield it from the inside. I don't like the truss
This is a little
landscaping
better
for the
than I'm
lamp
doing now. It's
Uh,
a little different.
Is there
Yeah.
a
So
way
is
to-
this your final
Yeah, I
landscape
think
plan?
the nose.
Did we
No,
submit
it
the
was-
landscape? I have the
Yeah, I mean,
landscape
it's
plan,
like-
I don't know if it was
like I said,
submitted
I
to
didn't
you.
submit it to you.
Set back a little bit.
We have a
But
final
it's
landscape plan,
Part of the overall street.
which is being submitted to planning and zoning, but,
Yeah.
this is the final landscape plan.
And do these photos represent the landscape plan? Because you've got, like, tree pits that are covered in grass, which are completely not gonna survive in the middle of the sidewalk. And is the sidewalk the model sidewalk from town?
The sidewalk that's along here, and Jim can address this better, is been gone over
We
with Comanche
collaborated with
Federal.
Federal Realty on that, and it was something that we worked with them on and presented to Jeremy.
So everything along the street, pavers, the walk, all the lighting, all of that is the same as what's going on at Federal.
Yeah.
So united.
And we've already been through.
I think you guys are still gonna have to address the entrances to those, to the garage. I mean, that's a concern we've had with different buildings, and it was a valued one because it became a problem in some of the locations,
Well,
in
this is
addition to the
internal.
4-foot.
The entrance to this garage is.
Beyond just,
Right, so if would this be acceptable, I guess is the question.
The lattice,
Right.
Where are you gonna grow it out of the flower box?
no, we're talking
No,
about
we're
the
talking about
light.
the actual.
Not just lattice.
We're talking
Right,
about
but
the
in
lattice,
your
whether there's
photo,
ivy
it
on it or
has
not. Yeah, we
green
drew
on it.
some ivy on it.
Do you think lattice is really suitable for all those buildings we're company?
It's gonna catch a lot of debris, garbage is gonna get caught inside, or,
Yeah.
and I worry that it's gonna be a maintenance problem if people want it to be planted.
If it's gonna be
Because that-
planted,
that-
it'll
I mean-
look badly.
You can, I know 27 fence panels right now cost $1,000 in maintenance a year to have ivy.
Oh, there's, I mean,
So
there's
that's
no
a lot of
question,
money
there's
if
some
you guys
money in
wanna
doing the lattice, I'm
do
just,
We're not gonna deny that this is an expensive alternative.
To have the green growing up the lattice is not inexpensive, but you're probably not.
Well, you can prevent that. You don't have to have something growing on the lattice.
But it's not
but
gonna
it
work
softens.
No,
Then
well,
if you take out all those
the ivy
windows and put
softens
in
the
lattice.
It does, but it also look good without it,
Well, it'll
honestly.
break the lattice eventually.
Well, the one that I think that somebody referenced, that it's the same one I think Jim showed me, I don't think they have anything on that lattice, that's the one across from the train, is that where it's?
But I'm also, going back, like, this is not gonna survive a
No, they just
winter,
do it
once you
grid.
start taking snow removal. This is gonna be gone. So I don't
Yeah.
know
And again, that's right at the
if you wanna
sidewalk,
be,
yeah. More or less.
these trees, how big are the trees gonna be when you
Trying to
first put
think
them in,
of
because you
some
can't have anything
Yeah,
on a
there's-
corner
I
that's
think I'm-
gonna hide a little child running around the corner.
Especially on the brick one.
The driver's not gonna.
Well, there's
There's a
a,
whole landscape plan that's gotta be approved.
there's a zoning regulation on that.
Yeah, exactly, but you've got trees in the corners, and you're gonna
You
have
know,
snow
like that
removal
show.
going up, and that's never gonna survive.
Not
There's
white.
a
And you've got a tree pit in grass.
Okay,
Is that
we, again, we didn't just present the landscape.
Yeah, those, yeah, on this facade where it
Paul,
says
does
right,
this come to
but
the
like the brick building,
beautification
for
at all
instance,
for
I don't think those are
landscaping ever?
really
I'm talking
need
about
not to
the-
I
have
don't think that the
some sort
landscaping
of
in the renderings
screen,
matches
because they're
the
set part of
landscaping
that.
that's
I think it's
actually-
just-
Whereas this is up, yeah, you walk
It might,
right
honestly,
by it.
we were
So
doing these
having
almost at
something
the same
is
time, so
Yeah.
that it might not be 100%.
Well,
Rita, do you know if Rita, you had brought up this concern, so let's kind of finish up this thought for these guys, stay focused. At the corner of Leroy and West, where we did redo the first level parking, as Dave Humphrey pulled up, did we find that this was a functional solution, no, as far as aesthetics and light
No,
display?
this was,
That was the
first of all, they weren't shaped like that, what we approved.
Okay.
Remember, this was a little bit different application because it was demanded by the courts.
Yeah.
So, what we had approved originally, I think, were arched. First of all, they were arched, and they had the lattice in them because of the surrounding Victorian houses and architecture, and it was to mimic that. What they put up was this, was just the, like, the window divided
Like a grid, just a
Right,
grid.
it wasn't what we had approved. We had approved with the lattice. And it was just to enhance the building, I think. And then I think when they put this, I pass this building all the time, I live off Leroy, so, this looked really ridiculous, I have to say.
This way?
It looked like
Yeah.
broken
This way?
windows.
May I
see that?
You know, it was,
They're just rectangles with
it
skinny
looked like
pieces.
they
That's
forgot to
open
put
in
the
between
windows.
Yeah.
Is it open in
But not
between?
allowed.
It's a solid, it is open, it's just
It was open,
Okay.
nothing in
Just
it.
open.
Well, yeah, if we're gonna do that, might as well
Yeah.
just leave them open.
Right.
And
So-
then they switched to lattice.
Then they put the lattice in.
Okay, with that being,
Same building,
And then,
so it was switched.
On that building, I think would help.
okay guys, that being said, I mean, these guys sound open to hearing our suggestions here, so if that didn't, what are we proposing ideas that do work, that we do like?
I was just gonna ask that question.
I thought the lattice looked good
The
I think the
lattice.
lattice looks good on that building
on that building.
because of the surrounding
too
and
much
the,
going
right,
on.
I don't know.
I think if you did it on all these openings though, would be
Too
a
much.
little
Of
too
lattice,
much. I think the
too
brick building stands on its own with openings, with the arched openings, cause those,
I do
to
too.
me, for a masonry building, those
You're
openings,
talking about
the
very
face
particular
of voids
particular
seem
when it comes to
appropriate.
aesthetics.
Face
Whereas
of
the,
Bridge.
yeah, whereas the along Heights Road, where it says Heights Road,
Yeah.
those being like right at the sidewalk, maybe
Uh-huh.
those could benefit from having something to sort of screen,
Yeah.
looking
That's
right
all
in,
parking,
on,
yeah.
into the parking area.
Maybe
Well, we were
just
trying to
the-
mitigate that with the planters, the planting boxes there.
Mhm.
And maybe it's also, maybe a possible solution is to have something growing in there that's taller. Topiaries or something to that effect,
Something that'll be.
that breaks up the sight
Something,
line.
something that'll.
Well, these are gonna have to be
Maintain
maintained
this.
regardless, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Topiaries are expensive.
it's part of our
That's
I mean,
program.
and the whole window boxes, they're paying, aren't they?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sure you wanna
And
commit
it's
to
weeding.
window
Well-
box?
Yeah.
That's a big, that's a big.
job.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
thinking that.
But we wanted to present something with these openings
We're trying to
that,
break up the
we're
openings.
trying to break it up to make it look good
Right,
and.
but year in and year out, I think
Yeah.
that's a tall order.
Who was your landscape person?
Matt Pop, Matthew
Matt
Pop,
Pop is the landscape architect, so
I don't-
he's,
ELS
Okay.
is the name of
Remember,
the company.
Dave, the,
You need the openings
Chase
for
Manhattan
ventilation.
Bank?
Yes.
And it was going to be a garden of delight
I think
on the
at least maybe
corner
this
of
center
Monroe.
opening below Heights Road,
Uh-huh.
it's such a large volume.
And you made a plea
Well, I
that
agree, with- and I'm sorry, I don't know
make this
anybody's
the
name,
most
but the gentleman with the.
Dave,
beautiful
Dave,
Yeah,
Dave.
Dave, I agree with Dave, that
Grass.
if
That's
we
his
can keep
highness.
the brick ones open and maybe do something in the other ones.
What were you going to say about the large one?
It just, it seems like maybe, I agree with Dave that, the brick, it works fine there, but maybe at least the one below Heights Road Cafe, that sign.
I mean, we would like to keep the other ones open, but I was also thinking about this, sorry, I'm grabbing your
No, that's all right,
paper,
yeah, it's all right.
as a
I'm supposed to be taking
possibility,
notes.
just what you said, maybe to just take this and do the
Right.
lattice in that
Something.
larger
Yeah.
opening.
Or, I
Then
mean,
it blocks the columns as
if we're gonna
well.
do the lattice there, I mean, what's your thought about us just closing them and siding it?
Well, do you need ventilation though?
We don't need all of it, I mean,
Yeah.
we can,
I think having a change
Supplement
in the
with-
fenestration, I think to Dave's point would, yeah, if that was just all wall, that would, I
right,
think
because
maybe
honestly,
do
what we
it.
tried to do is we kept the massing the way it was, we
Right.
just took out where there was glass.
Right.
And kept
Right.
everything else, which is why that opening is larger, because that was 3 separate pieces of glass like that.
Yeah, it looks like, the configuration is a leftover idea of retail turned into an opening, but I don't know that you need the grand opening. It, you know, it could
We were
even be
trying to
more
not make it
regular
look like a parking garage
fenestration.
or something.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement then of a lattice work for that one large opening there?
Well, it's only for the buildings that have parking underneath, right?
Right.
Well, it's just that corner.
It's just that corner we're talking about.
Or, well, actually, we're proposing just this section on here.
The rest of the building.
And the rest stays
Just
open.
have retail
See what we
on
can
the
come up with
ground.
as an
Well,
alternative.
I think that's a great
Right.
idea then to cover that one up and be able to leave the other ones open because the brick does work as we had thought, you know.
Thoughts, Madam Chairman?
They sound like they're digesting.
Could you do glass or just that one? Can you
Like
The
some,
way, Phil, the
Well,
way
the
this
glass
is
doesn't
drawn,
help with the light pollution.
the way that this is drawn, these are, is this the,
Where's the retail?
dark colored aluminum?
Well, no, this is just casing.
So that's wide open, and
Yeah,
this
it's
is
wide
wide.
open. You're seeing through, so you're seeing stuff inside. And you see reflections.
Well, maybe
You
more
see some
slides, I mean,
reflections.
it'd be a little bit
You
more
actually see through something.
I wouldn't even say horizontal, but the lattice, you're thinking like over, so these, you know, crisp plain stuff. Okay, we were just talking about rather than,
guys, let's bring it in, let's bring it in. Dave
we're
Bradley?
just talking rather than, you know, like lattice is kind of a generic term, but, you know, you've got traditional buildings, but there's transitional elements that can be worked into it. If they were more like slats or, you know, something a little bit more contemporary, clean, or something just, you know, enough that they achieve what we're asking about is, you know, kind of helping to mask the, you know, the vehicles and the lights and stuff, but also just give it a little bit more visual interest than just say something that says, we're trying to cover this up.
Yeah,
You know,
well, I'm
just kind of make it
thinking,
as much,
you know, along
more of an
those lines, I'm
architectural
thinking
element.
maybe we do something that actually is set off a little bit, even if
Right.
it's just a couple
Right.
inches, and it's like a panel,
Yeah.
and then it's open behind it, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't see
Maybe
through
Yeah, like
it.
what is the design opportunity
Right.
here? Yeah,
And maybe not
Like
light
a
colored.
Venetian blind.
perhaps, yeah, it
And
could
are
be
we
a
talking
darker,
about that
yeah,
for the
like
large
almost like a faux mahogany
Yeah,
or
bring the,
something.
are we talking about all the openings, or just along Heights Road, along Heights and Hollow Tree, or are we talking just that, yeah?
Just the
Oh,
parking.
where the parking
Well,
garage.
it's
So-
the
Just the parking.
The whole thing's parking, yeah.
But the brick
whole
element, I think everyone is okay
But I would, yeah, I was gonna
with
say,
as
could we
open.
agree that maybe the ones that are just in the brick, we can keep open?
Upright,
I'm in
yes.
favor of
But
that.
you do have other openings on.
Yeah, no,
Hollow
so
Tree
we'd say the
that-
rest of the openings,
Yeah.
we have them on both sides.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, God.
And as I said, some of those were in the parking drive down previously, because there was window boxes, some sort of display there.
Yeah, well, we'll come up with something.
Okay, so we're just,
Can I suggest something?
yes,
Oh, you were about to
no,
issue an order.
please, nope.
What if we take your comments, right? There's some interest in lattice, there's interest in some alternatives to that, and let us think it through, and, because you want us to come
Exactly what I was gonna
back
say, I was like,
with final colors and,
yeah,
Right.
the overall take there is
As well.
incorporating some sort of contemporary lattice
that
work
make sense?
element there to the openings along Heights and Hollow Tree, non-brick,
Just
the
the
non-brick,
garage.
The non-brick,
non-brick
okay.
garage openings.
Okay, good.
Along
okay,
Heights.
now,
I'm concerned about trying to match something to the brick, and I think
Right.
you were right,
It-
Dave, that building does work on its own there.
instead of committing to something now and then, oh geez, that looks horrible, you know, then
Right, okay.
I'd rather just have them try to
Okay,
take your
good.
comments into consideration. The other thing is, we're going to planning and zoning, I think next Tuesday, Dave?
I'm not sure of the schedule, but it might be.
For the site plan issues which have to do with the parking, the change in the retail space, primarily, and one or two other things that are site plan issues. But it's not a public hearing, so this is kind of a fluid process. I think we can go forward based on your architectural comments and proceed with the site plan issues with planning and zoning, if it's okay with you.
Absolutely,
And
yeah,
then you can,
absolutely.
Maybe you can
And
write a
we'll
letter
just-
to that effect
Yep.
and say, yeah, you're generally okay with these changes, subject to some final revisions for certain
for
things.
color and light.
And, you know, we're gonna come back anyway.
Did we talk about all your chimney, I mean, is that the last element, the,
Let me just, where's
I'm
mine?
just making sure the faux
5,
chimneys,
6, and 7.
Oh,
I don't think we-
yeah, metal railing, yeah, exactly, thank you.
Right, we covered the basement parking, We talked about the window frames, the brick veneer, we talked about chimneys, we talked about metal railings are being changed to a composite rail system. Is that same color?
Yeah, are you talking about the Juliet documents?
We're talking about all of them. It's-
All the
and
railings,
honestly,
all the outside.
90% of the railings we're talking about are on the back side of building number 2.
When you say
Because-
composite, what's composite? what?
Like AZAC tracks,
AZAC, okay.
something like that. But on building number 2, the backside has some roof decks on it. And that had railings, you know, a lot of railings. So back here,
This is building 2 as well, why is it?
so that's 2E, but so it's on this part of the building and this part, these two
Got it.
parts over here.
Got it.
There's no 3rd floor there.
This.
Is that value
I'm
engineering,
not
or is
exactly
that,
sure what that is.
Right, so then the
Just
other
the
thing
system.
is.
The only other thing is the roof.
I believe when these, we weren't the original architects, when this was originally approved, those 2 areas I just mentioned where the railings are, where we have as decks, there was a note someplace about them being green roofs. I'm not sure, we didn't have a lot of information that showed us they were green roofs. There was some sort of note someplace, so in full disclosure, they're not green roofs, they're roof decks. From the ground, you won't notice the difference, because the same railing system they had on it, we kept. We now want to change that railing system from metal to the composite.
us discussing that.
Again, you'll only see it from the back.
I think the green roof is kind of an overlap with Federal, because they had several green roofs that they were trying to use as kind of open park area, park-like areas. And there might have been some little overlap in the, because the 2 applications went through at about the same time.
okay.
And that might have been where that green roof concept came from.
But I think that's the whole list.
Do you remember, Dave?
Okay.
No.
I have a quick question about the change to the bronze aluminum storefront. You know, it would be nice to know what the details of that bulkhead is on all of the storefronts, because it seems to be, well, I can't quite envision how it would be detailed. And I think the storefronts work best when they have a nice bulkhead that's well detailed.
Again,
not
we
just-
can address that, we didn't, because our approach was, whatever you approved is what we were doing. We didn't change anything from the drawings we were given by the other architects is what that
Right,
bulkhead
but
is.
bronze aluminum is a shift from,
Yeah, I don't know that there was, I couldn't find any place there was actually a color ever picked out for the aluminum.
okay,
There's
well-
not on any documents I've seen.
Well, then going forward, I think it'd be good to have a detail of the storefront, because it's throughout the whole complex.
Sure.
right?
We can do that.
And they're very important.
They're important.
Storefront
The
are
quality of the
critical.
storefronts, I think, is really important to give a flavor, and I know that, some storefronts.
Again, in the issue of full disclosure, we did lower the head of that window a foot. So we took the top of the window and lowered it down a foot for a bunch of reasons. Value engineering is one of them. The other one was they were at like 11 feet, which meant that our ceilings inside would have to have pockets around the whole perimeter, because we couldn't get our ceilings above the heads of the windows. And so, and plus that, it actually gave us a little bit more space above there, so we're happy to do that detail.
And your signage plan for this is that they all be included in these sign bands, is that it, on the fashion?
We're gonna have to see a signage plan, I was gonna.
I think the final signage is, when we went through the first time, the
I don't mean the
regulations
signs
hadn't
themselves, I
changed
just
yet.
mean that they have considered it and think
Oh.
of where to put it,
Where
you
it's
know.
going to go.
Smart, yes.
Again, whatever you guys approved is what we're doing.
Well, it looks
Well,
like
I don't
there's.
Well,
think
we didn't get to the
I don't think
individual
we're
sign
that
detail.
level of detail.
No, that's always later.
No.
When you get the tenants and they actually
Right,
have
no, I
signs
understand.
to show.
Any other comments on those final five, 6, and 7 per Bob's letter to our
Looks like
board?
there's space made for signs already.
So the only portion of the complex that remains brick is that corner piece, because there were a
That's correct.
couple, okay, yeah.
Are you guys using proper like your actual real hardware for your shutters?
Yes,
We
the
will.
backs, the holders that hold them in place.
Yeah. They're
I've
not
seen a
s-
couple of different names from them, shutter dogs and.
Shutter dogs,
Right.
Yeah,
But
those
also
are
hinges.
traditional S-shaped.
Hinges,
Right.
okay.
I mean, we haven't
Painter.
finished the exact
Yes.
ones,
Right,
but
But
yeah.
it's the hinges that really count.
functional.
that really matter.
You want them
because it's the
functional, so
hinges.
Yeah.
Right.
theoretically, you could
You want functional
swing and
hinges,
close.
And
Yes,
they
and
should,
it gives it a nice shadow line than just flat.
and the
Don't get
width
the
has
pla-
to
you
be
don't get
so
the
where they
plastic ones
meet when they
in.
close.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Right, that was already,
Right, okay, yeah. And the hinges and then the brackets for the.
So, I mean, when we finalize the colors, we're happy to, you know, give you a
Okay,
sample
good.
of the.
Right.
the-
And the
the
lighting
shutters.
also, the fixtures, whatever lighting
Lighting.
fixtures.
What are you, you're looking for what? Cut sheets on that, or?
Again, I
Yeah.
mean, keep saying
So-
that, but we weren't here prepared to address any of this. We were doing whatever you guys approved.
Okay, so let me summarize here. The things that you presented, everything looks good, the changes that you made to the plans that you have here. We did have the changes, we talked about, you know, some sort of contemporary lattice work, updating the first
The
floor
holes,
garage on the
yeah.
corner of the Heights and Hollow Tree Ridge Road to the areas that are non-brick related. Moving forward, I know you guys have to get a P and Z, so we'll send a favorable report based on the changes here. But in part of that, I'm gonna say what we still need to see is a deck that contains the final samples and a color board. In addition to that, a final presented landscape plan as well as a lighting plan. It does have,
Yeah, so we're gonna basically, we have the lighting plan that was approved by everybody previously. That's the fixtures that we've gone with. There might be, the only exception may be where they decided they wanted to match Federal along the street. I'm not sure that you guys ever saw those exact fixtures that
And
were
I'm not sure
matching
we,
Federal.
at that level of detail that we approached back in 2016, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that we normally wouldn't see lighting, signage, landscape,
they were presented.
awning.
There's,
Sometimes-
you might not
presented
have,
to
it
the
is
plans.
on the approved plans
Yeah,
by
we
somebody
did do
that
that.
approved them.
Well,
'Cause that,
since,
I have
maybe
those.
P-
maybe
P&Z,
since
but-
there's been some amendments to the storefronts, we could look again.
Yeah, we can bring you
at
back the lighting plan that's in their
Awning.
package.
Okay, that would be good when you come
And
back.
lighting and signage.
And
I
when
don't
we write to
think-
P and Z, we'll say something that we're waiting for the, on the details of the color and the final presentation.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been anything in the plans you saw before about light coming through those openings because they were all closed.
You're talking about the site lights, right?
No,
The whole
you're
thing.
talking about the lights coming out the openings
Yes,
for the
as well
garage.
as lighting for the whole.
No, the fixtures.
Regular lighting
Fixtures.
fixtures.
Right, but fixtures, you're talking
Oh.
about the site poles and the lights
Right,
that are on the
poles
buildings
and
that are on the
everything.
exterior,
Yeah,
right?
those were already approved.
Again, we have the approved drawings, we're happy to bring them
Okay.
back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have in my letter, they looked good, it was a black iron lantern lighting scheme that was throughout, I think we liked it.
Yeah.
But as part of your final presentation, when you bring
No
the
problem.
samples, the colors, that should be part of it as well, as long as the
Okay.
architectural plan,
Yep.
I mean, the landscape architecture
No
plans.
problem.
And then also, at some point, we need to see a signage presentation. We just did this with Federal Realty, put together a full booklet with them on how they would propose, how
Like
they would approve
an,
tenants.
like an internal
So you want
signage
like a concept
program?
more than anything?
You could, no, not a concept, we wanna see something final. We did put a final deck with these guys on how they're gonna do signage for their entire site. It was a huge deal.
Okay,
It
how
took a
we're
long
gonna do it,
time.
but not the specific names of each tenant.
Right, exactly, but it had exact
What they're gonna
limitations,
be,
what they're gonna do.
colors,
Things like letter
how they're
heights
lit.
and-
It's all the
Yeah.
regulations.
Areas.
Yeah, understood.
Very specific.
Right, but that, we can do that as a separate package,
Right,
right?
so
Yes.
you could come to us with individual tenants, if that's, should you do that, it is a long process. You could also take a cue from Federal Realty, since they've just gone through this process with us, and maybe.
I think
No,
the
we
federal-
don't want it.
We were communicating with them while you were doing that
Great,
with
okay,
them.
oh, good, okay.
We're gonna
So
want a
you'll be-
package anyway,
good, you'll
to-
step
so
ahead.
that we can say to our tenants,
Okay.
this is what you have to do.
Right,
So,
it'll be
yeah,
easier
that's
for
not
you
a
guys,
problem.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
We
So I will
agreed to sort
recap
of-
those points in my letter. I will get you a letter done this week. We mail out by the end of the week, but Dave will send you an email copy, so you have
I
to
mean,
take
even
it
if
to
you,
P&Z.
you need to take longer, just as long as if
So
we're
as they
up
know.
for P and Z next week, to have something we can tell them and
sorry.
just go forward.
Got it.
So
You'll have a
So we
favorable
don't
report
get
with
hung
our
up.
one change, and then heading to see a final presentation with those, just small details, small, large details, but.
Looking at a parking lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
I had some initial concerns, maybe I didn't pick it up last time, it's just what the massing of this is gonna look like.
Oh, here we go.
Single
Yeah.
family residences here. But in looking at this,
It's not too
it's
bad.
bulky as I
Yeah,
thought.
to come there.
The rendering helped a little.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good. Oh, I'm not, I mean, I'm confusing, I'm getting this, I don't know how many I have anymore, Bob. Hey guys, I'm sorry, I know it's late, and so I'm gonna keep this next part brief. I know it's 9:50 and we wanna wrap up. I just wanna go ahead and give you guys a heads up what's happening here. You saw in each of your packets the letter from Connecticut Trust recommending the formation of village districts. For the new guys, you don't know about this, but go back a year here, and I kind of give you guys a summary of what village districts are, and in my mind, a proposal of why it's important that we implement something like this, or suggest P and Z implement like something like this in our town. There are no regulations at all, as we just saw with this Monroe property at Rings and Bridge, to kind of regulate, you know, our historic buildings from resident to commercial. And there is a way, not a way to like restrict, but just kind of almost govern and kind of keep some of the historic sense to Darien by implementing village districts. It's something that has been done in 17, as you saw, towns across Connecticut, a lot of our neighboring towns, and it was also recommended in our town plan, both in 2006 and 2016. It's recommended again and again. So I'm kind of taking a cue from that. I'm gonna put together a presentation for P and Z, saying this is something that we'd like to see done. For you guys, we all voted in favor of this back in 2018.
Some of them weren't here.
Some of you guys weren't here, and it's been a long time. I kind of have my act together on this. I have
It's a statute, I wanted to say, just for those that haven't been.
Sure.
And I don't mean to interrupt.
No, please, it's great.
We have a statute in Connecticut, it's 82J, and it allows that anybody, any town can establish something called a village district. And what this would be for vistas and for buildings and for a variety of areas that seem particularly aesthetic or something very historic. And the reason it has a lot of interest is because it's not that difficult to put in place. We have things called historic districts, which are in preserving method. And that means that you have to vote for a commission, and all the architecture has to be approved and carefully monitored by a historic commission, and you have to get permits from everybody within the area. Permission, I mean. Now, this village district is a simpler method where you can have some controls over, maybe, I'm thinking one of the sites that they were thinking of is at Mather, the Four Corners at the Mather place. There's certain areas, well, Ringsend was one of them, Prospect Avenue was thought, and this is listed in the 2006 town plan of potential areas. But what makes it interesting is that what they worked out is it can work through the current Planning and Zoning Commission. And what they do, the Planning and Commission would have to work when a decision comes up on in this area that you designate as a village district. The commission would have to have an architect on it to make a decision, or a landscaped architect, and someone that is not just part of the regular planning and zoning. Or planning and zoning could send it over to the architectural review board. I mean, this would be up to planning and zoning, but they're working with groups that are in place at the moment, you know, and not having to establish a new commission. And there is a list here, and I copied off some of them for those that you have.
It's on the back of our letters.
If you want.
It's on the back.
You've sent it out?
We all have it on the back of our letter.
Can I have
in the packet.
Oh, okay, I've made some copies, I didn't know it was in the
That's
back.
great, that's great.
This is some of the current village districts in Connecticut, so, and we thought we could go to planning and zoning, and maybe they would talk to some of these people and see how it all worked out. And I think, to my way of thinking, we have, as you know, and I've written a little deal here, that, I mean, I just wrote, I was thinking about the importance of preservation in general, and I can email it to you if you want to read it. It's about, I think, my point is, I want to say that visual reminders, both aesthetic and historic and architectural, are very important to keep people involved and emotionally aware of themselves and of the town. And I use a phrase, I don't want to, you should probably read it, said I use a phrase that this is sort of a visual fabric around us, and as you pull strings, it deteriorates. And all of a sudden, if you don't have some control and some looking forward, the little fabric disappears and you come up, and I referred to it, Darien loses a character and becomes Darien comes any town, USA. It loses this distinctiveness that we've tried to gather. This goes with views as well as structures. And I think that we have to be very conscious of what's coming in the future. There's going to be a lot of development coming, and if we have some sort of a plan for some particular areas that are fairly easy to put into place, then that seems to me like a sensible thing to try. And I feel as if the Architecture Review Board you can read what we've written, and if you agree with the idea, then we can go to planning and zoning and say, here, we have an agreement from the board, and here are the towns that have started, and let's see what we can produce.
Well, I think the advantage of that would be like the position we were put in with that one residence, is
Yeah.
that we had, in my opinion, we shouldn't have even been looking at it. I mean, granted, no, for what it was, because it was not in our purview
Well,
to do that.
it could have
And
been
this
in our
would, well,
purview.
but this would allow for.
This would allow for it. I mean, I
Well, we
think
wouldn't see
that
it
there have
though
been
still.
many, I hate to say it, but there were many times when we have been referred to areas, in this particular owner.
Well, this is for residential.
No,
I
it's
mean,
the residential areas too, they've come to us to ask us opinion. That was not out of the order. What was out of order is that they didn't want to change anything, and they knew that we would cause some changes. And that was really
well,
what it
yeah,
came
but
down to.
in my opinion, we
Well,
don't have the authority to make those
We
changes.
don't legally have it, but what's happened in the past in terms of precedent.
Mhm.
And
Really,
while
I don't remember, Mary
No,
Ann.
they have some, we've had some, okay, but while.
Private residence, I don't remember.
Well, you don't think that the commission, the planning, ZBA wouldn't have referred it to us unless they wanted our opinion.
Of course.
They referred it to us.
They were looking for.
And they were, well,
I think we could debate that
Wilder,
further.
let's not go on. Wilder had to follow his client, let's put it that way. And we've all seen the result of what it's been built there. And there's no need to go any further on that one, but
But anyway, you said that beautifully though, Mary. I think there is a point, like, if we don't if someone doesn't kind of stand for the town's history and what this architecture has here, then it's gonna be lost. And I think it might somehow fall on our board, or actually me in this case, to make a presentation to P and Z to see if they'll consider, it's not gonna be us. P and Z will be the ones that will be implementing this, and they'd be the ones setting up a subcommittee, which would then be the ones to review it. So if this goes through, if they get on board with doing something like this, we wouldn't even see these applications. It would go to maybe a couple of the board members we picked off
We'll see how
and
it
sign that.
develops.
Yeah, but
No, but I mean,
my
I
goal.
think we should try to think as along the way of certain views and certain vistas.
Yeah, I
And
think
we're
it
not
strengthens the
talking
argument
about-
to have
It's
certain
not only
places in
houses, and it's not only
Yeah.
old houses.
Right.
We have some beautiful modern houses. We have one right behind me on Centimere Road that might go down pretty soon. It's a fantastic place, and so I'm talking about all periods. I'm not talking about this,
Right.
Well,
just
absolutely.
the
New Canaan's
18th
a prime
century.
example of.
What?
New Canaan's a prime example.
Yes,
of
and
that.
well, we have a Johnson house right here near Noble Brothers.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes, and
Yeah,
it's a beautiful contemporary house here, and no one really is aware of it.
That's on
And-
Settlers, not Settlers.
It's on
It's
Settlers, it's on Settlers Trail.
Yeah, that's really special.
Anyways, I'm gonna put together a presentation on this on deck, on kind of like to recap all you guys' minds on what a build district is, how it gets implemented, what are the options, how it's, how it's formed, how we proceed in the future. But I want to give you guys a heads up on what is in the works, so when I present this to you guys in September, it would be, you guys won't be blindsided. And ideally, I'm saying this because I want all your guys' support. You don't have to support it, but I just think if it's not on us to preserve the architect in this community, I don't really know where it falls on. And like Marion said, it is being unraveled. There's a house on the Post Road coming up, one of the most historic old house, the Weed and, what is it?
Pond Reed House.
The Pond Reed
I'm not
House.
so sure that should be knowledged yet.
Sorry.
Even
though we're
I
on
didn't know
TV.
it either.
So I don't really know who this falls on, but I think at some point we've gotta, I'd like to see our board, try to make an initiative
Do
here.
you
So-
all feel, how do you feel about after my little spiel? Do you think it's a good idea?
Run with it. Yes.
I mean, talk.
Absolutely, but I
I
think
mean,
we should
Renee,
also
can you send us
involve
this?
the downtown
Do you have
core, which is
copies?
why I
Alright.
think this place should have the same sidewalk and the same feel
I agree.
as our downtown area. I'm shocked that this is concrete.
Yeah, I
It's
am
just
too. I mean,
Like
after
we
we,
missed something
if
there.
anyone
It should
wants
have
one
had
of
the
these,
red brick,
I
it should have looked like you were
four of
still
them.
Mariana, not in the road.
Well,
But-
I took this as just the rendering, but have they specified that that's going to be concrete?
When they come to
No, he
materials.
said,
Yeah.
he said that Federal, I don't know who Federal is.
Well, they were
It's
the
on the
development
development,
side.
it's
The
on
other
the
one.
corner.
Okay, he said,
Yeah.
well, Federal said it was okay, and so
I'm not sure that that's correct.
I think
But
that
this
it
should
lends
look
a
like downtown.
consistency. Yeah, I
And
can't
trees.
recall if it's just a concrete or if it's stamped.
You should always know that you're in downtown, or in Darien.
Right.
There should be
But this is
continuity,
New
there
Road and
should be
Heights
a.
though.
It's a
I mean,
different
it could have
district, yeah.
a different character, I think, as
Yeah.
long as it's a consistency, but not just concrete. I mean, I think there can be some distinction between,
Yeah, we did a building, we did a whole book on the design of Darien commercial districts.
Mhm.
And I have it on my computer, and everyone should have it, we all should have a copy of it. If you, I think, do you know where that is? That we designed?
You sent me a
Couldn't
copy.
put my finger on it at the moment.
I sent you a copy.
Yeah, but it's
Oh,
so
I
large
can-
you can't email it, it's something, yeah.
No, I know, it's
Yeah.
hard, but I'm just saying, it is there were a couple of us that worked for almost 2 years, and we just, and with Susan Lawrence
When you
and
did the
Judy Grova, we did all the lighting, and we did what things should look like, and the sidewalks and all of this, and it's been sort of buried somewhere, and I think it might be good for us to.
I've never seen
I
it.
did a
I've never
complete
seen
tree plan for downtown Darien with the DRI.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I did a whole thing for the
And
DRI.
you did that,
Yeah.
all right, so you're familiar what I'm
Yeah,
talking
I know
about.
exactly
And
what-
I
I feel
think
like
we-
half this work has been
And
done.
I think we should get it, we should all
Yeah.
see a copy of
I
it
think
somehow.
I might have a copy. I'm not sure.
I'm sure there are copies somewhere, Dave said he has them, and I have it on my computer, but that's still.
All right, if you guys have those materials, if you have those materials, thoughts, email them to me.
Right.
I'm gonna put together a deck, I'm gonna send it to you guys, and I want you guys thoughts, feedback in the meantime, and then I'll present to you in September, and I'll then push it to the P and Z.
Well, speak up now
with
if
our
you have a
mission.
problem, anybody.
I like the idea that I'm curious in New Canaan and
How it
Westport,
works.
what areas they have as village districts and if they got pushback from residents who feel it's an encumbrance on sale or, you know, like because when
Yeah,
those people then sell their house, you know, the idea is
Well,
it's locked in the envelope or the view
well,
or
that's the
whatever, so
difference,
it's, yeah.
historic districts are more restricted than this village district.
Okay, mm-hmm.
And I think it's really, and so that makes it easier. Of course, when you talk to Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation, they claim it increases the value because people aren't afraid of a building coming in and wrecking the neighborhood. Like if you live on Prospect Avenue or in some particular areas that you like the architecture, you don't
Right.
want, you want some controls or protection, and they claim it depends on the attitude. And the reason I asked for the names of the people with it, so that planning and zoning can call their buddies up, you know, from these, and find out the answers to those questions. You know, and find out what the real problems are.
Yeah, I think that's important, I think that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good suggestion for them.
And every town has to be a little different, we have to, but I think it would, I think particularly because of the 200-year thing going up next year, it's the appropriate time to think now, what should we try, what kind of views do we wanna keep? Like the beach views, they're having a discussion right now on Pear Tree Point, you know, and I got a call the other day. What about the gazebo?
Yeah.
And I said, I think the gazebo is a very important feature, and you don't wanna build all around it and hide it.
Right.
Which is what they seem to be doing. They're building a ramp up to it and another, and so, I mean, there's certain aspects, I think, that we should make a little mental notes as we go around about things that, it doesn't hurt having a list. And then we can, and so it's not only buildings, and so that's what you have to think in mind.
Yep.
No, I think that's.
This is very important too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's very, I'm anxious to read this.
Well,
Well,
I-
look into that.
Well, I did, I got it,
Yeah.
I tried to use the emotion, I tried to pull on the emotion first, and then you can.
Marion did write a beautiful
No,
letter
I
about it,
know, beautiful.
which I'll forward you guys, but I wanted to give you guys a
Liz has all the
heads up what it
details.
was.
Liz has all the details she'll give you.
Yeah, but it's coming, I'm hoping for your support. And then the last thing, the minutes, guys, the minutes from the May 2019.
Oh, they were fabulous.
No, they were,
I
I
went
know.
to-
She should be the permanent secretary.
Yes, yes.
I know, they really are.
They-
She really does a good
Well,
job.
She does do
she's
it.
really
Very
very careful, she's just beautiful.
All right, so we got approval across the board then?
Yep.
Great, all right, it's 10:03 PM, that closes the meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, thanks guys.
That was a record.